Hello, hello. Welcome to the darkest of timelines. Here I am, Preston Jacobs, and we are getting through this bullshit by talking about ice and fire. Talking about ice and fire to keep our minds off of fucking A. So, I want to talk about a little bit about my somewhat clickbaity thumbnail on why so many points of view in A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons. And I kind of said, oh, it's actually Arya's fault. I was being a little facetious because it's not just Arya's fault. It's all of the Stark children's fault, or at least all of the young Stark children. It's Sansa, it's Arya, it's Bran. And you could probably say it's also like Myrcella and Joffrey and Tommen's fault too. But the idea is that really all of the problems of A Dance with Dragons and A Feast for Crows really go back to the very simple fact that George chose to make his children characters too young. And everything else kind of stems from this. This is the root problem from the beginning, is that he made them too young. And you may say, well, how does that lead? How do we get from X to Y on this? What are you talking about? And I was like, well, let me explain. So originally George had this 3-act play in mind. The War of the Five Kings, the Dance of the Dragons, the battle with the others. And he thought this was going to be a long, many-year story. That the story would take place over a good, 7 years or so from beginning to end. 7 or 8 years. And in his outline, he has things about Sansa getting married and having children and things like this, and choosing her child over her family because her child was half Lannister. She has a child with Joffrey in the outline. And so but when George actually went to page and he started writing, a problem happened, and that is he didn't have enough time pass on page. He originally thought that A Game of Thrones, A Clash of Kings, A Storm of Swords was going to take years. And that by the time he got to the next book, well, he thought it was only 3 books, but by the time he got to the next book, the children would be old, that the story would unravel slowly. A Game of Thrones is a year, a little over a year. A Clash of Kings is about 6 months. A Storm of Swords is about 4 months. And A Feast for Crows and Dance with Dragons together is about 6 months. It's not perfect on all of those because the books overlap. But the amount of time that the books take place over, though, cuts down. It's not Game of Thrones. He wanted it to be longer. And so because of this, by the time George was writing A Storm of Swords, he came up with the idea that he would have a 5-year gap. And if you look at the end of A Storm of Swords, most of the characters, save Brienne, are in a situation where if 5 years go by and you pick up on them later, it's not so bad. Jon is Lord Commander for 5 years. Arya is in training for 5 years. Sansa is in the Vale for 5 years. Dany is ruling Meereen for 5 years. Tyrion is at Illyrio's manse for 5 years. I know it's a little weird, but Tyrion is at Illyrio's manse or doing whatever for 5 years. The problem was, one of the small problems was Brienne, but as George got out of Storm and he actually started thinking about writing, he was calling it Dance with Dragons at this point. He hadn't changed the name to A Feast for Crows. When he was thinking about writing the 4th book, he realized that the 5-year gap was a really stupid idea. And he dumps the 5-year gap fairly quickly. People make a big deal out of the 5-year gap, and it is kind of a big deal. But like I say, the fundamental problem were the children. He needed all this time to pass. So he comes up with this 5-year gap idea. And A Storm of Swords is written this way. And then he finishes and he specifically realizes that, fuck, this doesn't make sense. Okay, there's 2 really big plot points that that the 5-year gap makes no sense about. Yes, you could take Brienne and have her do a bunch of flashbacks, but the real problem was Dorne's reaction to Oberyn's death and Euron's rise to the throne. And so he sort of realized like, oh, fuck, like I need to write those, because people talking about Euron's rise to the throne and the Dornish reaction to Oberyn's death in conversations and everything, that's just not going to work. So George decided to write a prologue for the 4th book, A Dance with Dragons at the time. And he decides to write a mega prologue that was going to be 200 to 250 pages. And it started out with 5 points of view, then it was 7 points of view. Then he was talking about it being 12 points of view, 12 little, not points of view, but 12 stories. It'd be 12 short stories. Well, not even that short, but 200 to 250 pages. And this would be the prologue. It wasn't going to be a dying person in the prologue like normal. It would be this prologue of, Areo-Hotah, of the Damphair, of Asha Greyjoy, of Aerys Oakheart. And, he originally, it got to the point where he was planning 12 little short stories that would last 200, 250 pages. And so when he was writing this prologue, because he wasn't worrying about points of view and where it was coming from, he just willy-nilly was like, fuck it. Like, Aerys Oakheart, this one's from Arianne Martell, this one's from the Damphair, this one's from Asha, this one's from Victarion, this one's from Areo-Hotah. He invented all of these points of view kind of carelessly, because he didn't expect them to be official, proper POVs. He was writing a massive prologue. And the original massive prologue, Aerys Oakheart actually wasn't going to die during the Queenmaker part, and he was going to come back for another chapter and things like this. There was, but he started writing this massive prologue, and then he was actually going around saying, look, A Dance with Dragons, A Feast for Crows, there's only going to be 2 new points of view. It's going to be like Cersei and Brienne, and we're going to have this massive prologue, which will be the 5-year gap. We'll do the prologue and then the 5-year gap. And then he realized the 5-year gap was a bad idea, but he still had this massive prologue that he'd written, or at least a good portion of it. And it wasn't bad. The thing is like, let's be honest, like, Aeron Damphair chapters are fucking gold, right? Like, the Kingsmoot is a fucking gold chapter. Arianne Martell's story is pretty fun. This is also why, like, when people bring up the theory, on a side note, when people bring up the theory that Darkstar was actually Edric Dane, and because of 5-year gap, no, because the Queenmaker was actually, he started writing that before he even got rid of the 5-year gap idea. So no, like, Darkstar is Darkstar. Like, Darkstar was going to be Darkstar no matter what. Like, so no. So he was going to just have the 5-year gap and then deal with all of the Dornish Ironborn stuff in the prologue to catch everybody up, and then have 5-year gap. And then he gets rid of the 5-year gap, and now he's got all these fucking chapters. Like, it was still going to be a prologue, and then it grew, and he's like, fuck it. They're no longer prologues. They're point of view characters. So because of this prologue, because he wasn't worried about it, he now has all of these new points of view. 6 new points of view, right? Am I doing my math right? Because it's Asha, Aeron, Victarion, Aerys, Arianne, and Areo, right? So he gets 6 new points of view because he just like, this was going to be a prologue. He didn't worry about it. And And so that explains Feast for Crows. Like he was planning on having a point of view for Brienne and planning on having a point of view for Cersei pretty early. And the Dance with Dragons stuff, I talked about it in my video, but at least 3 of those were because he was stuck. But the thing is, now he's already opened the world up to like a million new points of view. So what's a few more? What's a fucking Jon Con? What's a Barristan? What's a Melisandre? It's up in the air whether Quentyn was a crutch as well. We're not really sure why he suddenly shoved in Quentyn there. Because when you think about it, like had George, when he first wrote that prologue, really thought like, let's limit the point of views, there's no reason that Aerys Oakheart needed his own chapter. You know, that could completely been from Arianne's point of view. In fact, he probably didn't need Areo Hotah either. Like, yeah, the Sand Snake scene is fun, but that could have been done from Arianne's perspective. Like, you could have just redone the chapter, but Arianne is the one that's traveling with Doran. The same when you think about the Ironborn, like the Kraken's daughter, like, could you do it all from Asha's point of view? You know, he had planned on Victarion dying, so like, could you do it all from Asha's point of view, or could you do it from Damphair's point of view? You could probably have done it all from you know, Aeron's point of view or something, eliminated some point. But once he threw in, it was just like, fuck it, 6 new points of view plus Cersei and Brienne, 8 new points of view. Why not? Now it was like Dance with Dragons, like 4 more. Fuck it, you know. So it was kind of this cascading thing, but now we're in a situation with all these points of view where he kind of feels obligated to keep writing those points of view. So now, like, even if you give each of the point of view like 1 or 2 chapters, like that like fills up half the book. And so it started with the kids being too young. The kids being too young led to the 5-year gap because he needed to age them up. And then he then created the mega prologue to deal with the backstory of the Dornish and the Ironborn during the 5-year gap, and then he abandoned the 5-year gap, but he still had this mega prologue. He breaks it up, and now he's got all these like points of view. But it's an interesting thing because when like eventually going back and learning the history and the meta story of George. Because when I first read A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons, I didn't know any of this. And I was like, wow, what an incredible subversion of expectations. I thought that the book was closing up, and then I was surprised by all of these new points of view and the story growing. And I was impressed that like George had subverted my expectations. And I was like, and when you really think about it, like had George like pulled it off and brought the story together at the end, it would have been an incredible subversion of expectations. You think the story is wrapping up and now there's 20 new points of view. But now I know that it was all by accident. Like he stumbled into this through the writing process, having all of these points of view. It wasn't a grand plan. I still think these points of view, some of them are fucking gold. Like I fucking love Jon Con. I love the Jon Con chapters. I love the Aeron Damphair chapters. I love the Victarion chapters. Like they're so fucking good. And I'm happy he stumbled into that, but it was by accident. It was a completely like, you know, as he went along, he realized this was a problem. And so he started writing a certain way. So anyway, we, let's go back. Where are we? So let's get into it. The Feast and Dance suck. Changed my mind. I mean, I love them. There's so much detail and everything. But I understand why they've got their problems. But at the same time, like I do love them. From UK, so I was Mr. Streams. What are your thoughts on Jon Aegon if they ever meet, since they're half brothers, assuming Jon comes back to life and Aegon is real? So I don't think that, well, first of all, I don't think that we're ever getting wins, but in that story, I don't think there's enough time for Jon to meet Aegon. And a lot of it just has to do with like logistics of where they are on the map and, you know, what's going on with them. Like you kind of think about Winds of Winter. Winds of Winter has to be the story of, at minimum, Aegon getting to the point where he's taking the Iron Throne and conquering much, if not most, of the Seven Kingdoms. Um, Meanwhile, Jon is the story of, what people think is that it's the story of him being dead for much of it, being a wolf, and then re-entering his body and being resurrected, and dealing with the fallout of the resurrection, and perhaps, if we're following the show even, becoming either like the king in the north or the king beyond the wall or all the above or a religious prophet to all of these people because he came back as Jesus. And so is there time, like just on the map, like how would you get Jon down? Would Aegon really fly up to the wall in the middle of winter to meet some random guy at the wall when it's everything's frozen and such like that? I just don't see that happening. I think there's just too much happening. They're too far apart on the map. Like a lot of people bring up do you think that Lady Stoneheart could do the kiss of life on Jon? And it's just like, they're so fucking far away. How would they get up there? That's the thing, is like Aegon doesn't have a dragon at this point. And Dany, even if we're thinking that dragons are going to get brought back, they wouldn't be brought back until fairly late in the book. And so would Aegon get on a ship and sail all the way to the wall, or would Jon sail all the way back down? Let's remember that on the time, like when Sam took a ship, and it took him half a book, to get to Old Town. Aegon would have to conquer the throne and then leave. So the more probable thing would be that Jon would somehow, get resurrected and then decide that he needs to visit King's Landing to request more forces or something. And he personally comes to King's Landing and meets at the very end or something. But that's the only possibility kind of logistically. So I don't know. I just don't see it happening. As interesting as it may be, all these characters meeting would be interesting. But does Roarg sodomize Biter? I know these are joke questions, but at the same time, I'm like, do they have a sort of those sorts of that kind of relationship? I mean, Roarg and Biter, I always thought were kind of fascinating in that they're hanging out with Jaqen H'ghar. They're black and white, black hair, and he's white and pasty skinned, and his Biter's flesh is all weird. And I do wonder, and Arya wonders this in story, like, are they minions of Jaqen? Are they faceless men? Are they, or at least tools of the faceless men? Why are they all in the black cells together? It may be that George just didn't think about it right. He didn't think it fully through and was just trying to make some scary characters, and we're reading into it. But, I always thought that perhaps they were faceless. They were at least faceless men aligned, or faceless men themselves. When Brienne like punches Biter and her hand like sinks into his like weird flesh and everything. Of course, this contradicts when people are like, "Oh, can you give us a backstory on Roarg and Biter?" And George at some convention is like, "Yeah, Roarg used to run a fighting pit in King's Landing, and Biter was in the fighting pit." And, okay, well that completely makes all of the mysteriousness of their backstory, like ruins it. But like, is Roarg really weird, and would he do that kind of stuff? It's just, but the problem is that Biter would probably bite him. They're scared of each other. So I don't think that Roarg does that. I think Roarg, if he's gonna sodomize anybody, it would be any other human being on the planet other than Biter, because Biter's fucking dangerous. June 3rd. Okay, I'll be taking that day off with much notice. must be the most important stream ever. Also, what do we do to get a signed copy of your book? Also, what are the plans for the next Euro friendly stream? Thank you, the watcher. As for some reason, when I started the stream, like for some reason, it put in June 3rd as the start time. And so I went off and Carmine texts me and he's like, dude, did you mean to have June 3rd? I was like, fuck. Because it actually said like when to start. Usually I have this timer that says like starting in like 2 hours, right? And it said starting in 120 days. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So I changed it up. Yes. But yeah, I'll have to think and work on how to get signed copies of the book. I'm trying to get the book published this week on Kindle. So yeah, guys, I've been working on a book for a long time. You've been hearing about it a long time. I'm finally just like, fuck it. I need to get this fucking book out. Okay. It's ridiculous. Okay. It shouldn't have taken this long. My book should not have taken this long. I'm sorry. I'm going to try to fucking get it out this week. I'm going over it one last time and then I fucking find more stuff and I'm like, God damn it. But I worked on like book cover and layout and all this sort of stuff, trying to get. But and then once it's there, you'll be able to order it either electronic or physical. But then the question is, how do you get signed copies? So I'll have to like order a bunch for myself, sign them, and then try to figure out a way to ship them to people if they want that. But I'll try to have that option available because I know a lot of people have been interested in that. And Euro-friendly stream, yeah, I'll try to. I know the last Euro-friendly stream I did was back in November, early November. So I'll try to do another one soon. Let me work on that, but I will do my best on trying to get a Euro-friendly stream sometime. It's tough because Euro-friendly streams like you guys are 6 hours 5 hours from here to like central, so I've got to yeah, I mean, I suppose I could do one in I could probably do it. I could probably do one. I could try to work it out. I'll try to work out a Euro friendly one fairly soon. Chances of John coming back as a white. Perspective of being a white. Direct communication to whoever the others are. That is, his individuality remains. Do the undead still have a right to life? I don't know if John... So, I don't think John would be coming back as a POV. And I think that... I mean... a lot of these things are like what's possible. There's just not enough room for John chapters in the Winds of Winter. Like, you've all kind of seen the Admiral Kurd video about how can you fit everything in the Winds of Winter. You can't without serious like cuts to certain characters, because so the only way you can possibly make things fit is if you cut the John chapters and you give all the perspective to Mel. Which has precedent in the sense that we don't have any more Cat chapters, right? So I think that probably George's original idea, yes, is that John comes back as some sort of fire white. That he's, people back him religiously or whatever, and stuff like that. But I don't think he gets. I mean, I just think it's impossible to give him more POVs. It's just not. As interesting as it might be, you just gotta take it from Mel's perspective. And yeah, and then you can kind of deal with the same sort of Beric Dondarrion individuality remain. Do the undead still have a right to life? Does anyone in A Song of Ice and Fire have a right to life? Like, everybody just kills each other so willy-nilly. There's such a lack of respect for life in A Song of Ice and Fire. So I'd say probably not. So I think whites are fair game for everyone to kill them. I mean, think about it this way: like, Sam just like started like, he just stabs another. That guy, he's just, they kill all they kill. There's the whites that attack him in the village. Like they get ravens kind of fly down on them. Do we think about poor whites? Poor whites? Nah, I mean, no, no one. Everyone in the story is just fodder. So I don't think there's any right to life there. Aren't I glad not to be in DC? I don't know. I don't know if things are still pretty bad here. Things are still pretty bad. Let's like keep in mind that I'm surrounded by government employees every day, people that are very worried and anxious, and I still get on conference calls, and people are. It's a really rough time. I mean, when people are worried about losing their jobs, their careers, and not knowing what to do. I mean, my. I mean, people are like literally weeping and not knowing what they're doing, like what's going to happen to like their mortgage and their family and things like that. It's a very, very, very rough time for people. Yeah. So, I'd rather talk about Aegon V's tax policy than Trump's right now. Face screen smiling. Yeah, I mean, I imagine tomorrow, by the way, is just the stock market's probably going to crash, and we're in some really dark times here. So it's I wish I had something positive to say, but it's really fucking weird and really fucking off the wall. Like everything, like the emails that I've gotten, like the fucking emails, man, like from Doge. Aegon V's tax policy. There is the issue of Aegon V or Aegon V's tax policy. Well, I was thinking more about Aegon VI. Like, what are you going to do when is this money and Iron Bank issue? Do they even have time to cover it? Because like once Aegon takes control, then it's immediately like he immediately has to turn around and fight Dany. Does he even have time for people to be like, this tax policy, or the Iron Bank to be like, where's our money? It's so fast that I that's a certain plot line where I'm just like, how's that plot line going to even work when everything can you explain what tariffs are? Tariffs are it's a requirement for businesses that take in foreign goods so businesses that take in foreign goods like have to pay a percentage of a tax on it. So say you are a paper company in America and you need to take in Canadian wood. Like you then pay a tax of 25%. Like say you're buying $1,000 of wood, you pay a 25% tax on that. So you pay $250 to the government. But now that wood costs more, so you raise the price of the paper in order to make up for the fact that you had to pay a $250 tax to the government. But that's more or less what it is. Man. Oh, our tariffs, taxes on imports. Well, they're taxes on the companies that import. They're taxes on the company that imports. That's what they are. Like when an importer like imports, they sign they fill out something called the tariff sheet, and they pay these taxes. So it's an American importer like who pays the money. I mean, the fact that like we're at this situation where like really kind of like shouldn't have everyone have known this like before we went into the election like show No one took it seriously. But it doesn't make any sense to me because it doesn't. I mean, it's one of these situations that makes me think that Trump's just not all there because like what he's demanding from Canada and Mexico is something they can't provide. He's saying like, "Oh, Canada, stop all the fentanyl that you're importing into the country," and they're not like they're not even doing that. And even if they were, like the America's tried to stop the drug trade for 50 years and has failed miserably. How's Canada suddenly supposed to suddenly stop? It's very like I mean, I think Trump just wanted to do the tariffs in and of itself, but it's like, why? What does he get out of it? I don't know if he gets anything out of it. I think his life right now is like being a vandal. Like you want to make a mark, and your mark is just the mark in and of itself makes you feel powerful. Because no one benefits from this. It's very scary. But we're going to see the stock market crash tomorrow, and we're in a really rough situation. And a lot of people, I mean, right wingers are talking about war. I mean, they're talking about conquering Canada. Like the president of the United States said that Canada should be an American state. That's fucking scary, man. That's fucking scary. They're talking military action in Canada, military action in Greenland, military action in Panama. And you can kind of say, oh, Trump's being Trump. Well, this is the president. It wasn't, this is like people are literally going to my office like in DC, and like Doge people breaking in, and like they've broken into a computer system and now have like my federal computer like records like at Treasury. Like they have now Elon Musk and Doge have my social security number, my all of my federal records, like my position, what I do, um, how many years I've worked, like all of my performance appraisals, like that's all like now in Elon Musk's hands. Like they have that for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why they broke in and took this. They have control over the pay system, So Elon Musk has control over whether I can be paid or not. So it's it's fucking weird, scary time. Thoughts on Twin Peaks? Yeah, the middle half of season 2 sucks, but the return is amazing. Everyone says the return is really good. I watched all of Twin Peaks and Fire Walk with Me. I was a huge fan. People encouraged me to watch the return, and I didn't. And I need to get into it. But I don't know. I really liked Twin Peaks. I did. I am a fan of David Lynch. I'm not a super fan of David Lynch, but I do appreciate his work. I think it's really interesting. And once you kind of sit back and be like, look, it's not supposed to make sense. You're supposed to like get a feeling about things, not like don't try to put all the pieces together because it won't fucking work. You're supposed to get an impression. Like once you kind of sit back and go, oh, it's more like an impressionist painting. Like don't try to look at the lines and be like, well, that haystack doesn't look like a haystack. Just stand back and get the feeling. Once you can kind of relax and do that, I think David Lynch, you enjoy him a lot more. But yeah, no, I was a big fan of Twin Peaks. I really like Lost Highway as a movie. Yeah. But yeah, but I should have watched The Return. I never did. I guess I wasn't ready. I had an interpretation of Twin Peaks. I've talked about it before that now with The Return is completely wrong. But all people have also pointed out that my interpretation of Twin Peaks was probably not a great one. I was like, yeah, that's probably true. I admit that like keep in mind that, I watched Twin Peaks and Fire Walk with Me like when I was younger, and like, in a weird way, I was shipping Coop and Laura Palmer, because Cooper is shipping himself and Laura Palmer. And like at the end of Fire Walk with Me, when like Cooper and Laura Palmer are together, you're like, oh, well, at least they're together. And then, and then like now that I'm older, I'm like, no, that's really fucked up. Like, no, like there's nothing great. Like, what? Why is there any value to that? like weird. I just had a bad. So I have to reinterpret everything and maybe watch The Return. Could George fix his issues by having the others kill off half the POVs quickly? You do say that his other works end rather abruptly. I'd enjoy that. So I think how most fans assumed the next book would be would yes be the situation where all these POVs are killed off quite quickly, that they had no purpose, like that you could leave, kill off Quentin or leave Quentin dead, kill off Barristan, and just have this onslaught and, have it go back down to the OG POVs, right? And focus on those stories again, that somehow would be back to them. The problem with that is that, I think George learned to hate the original POVs. And I think he learned to love his new POVs, because I really do think his new POVs are just so much fucking more fun. Bran is really fucking hard to write. It's really hard to sit in the mind of a little child and deal with this like time and trees and all this. Bran's no fun. Theon is, as much as we love Theon in Dance of Dragons, he's hard and painful to read. Tyrion he's no longer quippy Tyrion. He's like hard and painful to read because he's been through so much trauma. And so like you get to like the characters that are kind of ridiculous, like almost farcical, like Aeron and Victarion, and Cersei. And they're just so much fucking fun. They're so fun. They're so fun to read. And having now like written some of these chapters, and been in like going through it myself, it's like, yeah, like Bran is really hard. You have to make sure that every line is beautiful. Tyrion, every line has to be fucking clever, and that's hard. Well, Cersei's just a fucking train wreck and she's hilarious. And George has said as much. He said that like he became his favorite characters to write now are Asha and Arianne. Like they're much more fun, than so you just kill off the POVs. I mean, of course, your question is saying the others kill off the POVs. Like the others come in and just kill Davos, they kill Mel, they kill Jon, they kill Theon, they kill Asha. That would be incredible. But I think people were kind of seeing it like the show, because the show was just like, yeah, Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons, all those extra POVs, let's just not include them and then just, muscle on. But that would be quite shocking if it were just Onslaught, Jon Mel, Davos, Theon, Asha, and Stannis all killed off. Like that entire plot line is just bowled over. That would be incredible. That would help a lot. It would help a lot. But the problem is like, when is he gonna have the others invade? At the end of the Winds of Winter? So say you do that, you're still only, killing off those POVs for the last book. But yeah, but I will say, yes, he does. George does. He has ended his other books rather abruptly, and the examples being Dying of the Light, Fever Dream, and Armageddon Rag have incredibly abrupt endings. Like you are reading a book and you're 25 chapters in, when the case of Fever Dream and Armageddon Rag, Dying of the Light isn't that long, but it's the same situation where you're like 90% through the book and it feels like you're halfway through the book. And then all of a sudden, ending. Like everything wraps up really quickly. And yes, a lot of characters just suddenly die or whatever, or like so Hmm, I don't know. But then it's like, could you do that with all the POVs and all the characters, them all dying so quickly? I don't know. Oh, oh. Um, Preston had a dream where I discovered a secret world wormhole in my childhood home and teleported me to your house, and I began visiting you about once per day. Oh, well, you can help babysit. Yeah. What about the trade war? Trade war is going to be bad, man. There's no good way to like put this. Um, Canada is our number one trading partner. Mexico, depending on the year, is our number two or number three trading partner, depending if you count like imports, exports, all of these kind of factors. But you're talking about two, if not our two biggest trading partners, two of our biggest trading partners. Um, and products today uh, are complicated, and they're made in many countries. Um, Auto parts, for example, like go cross the borders for a car, half a dozen times. Um, you know, you produce something one place, it gets over here, and then you refine something, you put sealants on, you come back and forth. Like this kind of stuff happens. So when you're talking about slapping a 25% tariff every time it goes on over, like the product just can't be done. Um, Whole industries will fold. Like this is disastrous. This is disastrous. Um, no serious economist would ever think this was a good idea. Every economist, the major economic schools of neo Keynesianism and neoclassicalism, like both believe free trade is good. 25% tariff is just fucking enormous. This is, and it's just not only that, but you're talking about the United States' greatest ally, Canada, like becoming all of a sudden worried about U.S. invasion. Like, like the president of the United States like said that Canada should submit and be the 51st state, and then we'll take the tariffs off. Like that's not something you say to your greatest partner. Like, yeah, I mean, Canadians should be very scared. Canadians should have every reason to hate us right now. Like it's really bad. Um, so I don't know. I can't say I don't understand any. I don't see any logic or justification for it other than like Trump wanting to make a mark, a weird mark. Um, but yeah. Um, G Stuff was wrong about the Hisdar nightmare. The blade was twisted. Glass candles are tall and twisted. Mokora describes Euron as tall and twisted with one black eye. It's Euron with a glass candle. Oh, interesting. Um, hmm. I mean, a lot of these passages where I think we're talking about the Danny sex dream where she gets stabbed by icicle penis and stuff like that. Um, George being a gardener, he writes a lot of like weird stuff and doesn't know necessarily where he's going. But um, back in A Clash of Kings and fairly early, uh, um, actually pretty close to like it was a last minute fucking change actually when I think about it for A Feast for Crows. Because let me explain. I'm sorry, I'm not I'm not being very clear here. So George's original ideas for glass candles were that they were like weirwood trees, and that the maesters each had glass candles. In Clash of Kings, his idea was that each of the maesters had a glass candle, and that the glass candles gave them immortality, just like the weirwood gives you immortality. That the maesters had immortality from each having their own glass candles that they could communicate with each other. I mean, talk about like the Maester conspiracy being fucking crazy and nuts, right? So he cut that from Clash, though he left in the weird thing about Urathon Nightbringer with the glass candle in Karth. And definitely at the time when he wrote A Clash of Kings, he definitely planned on Euron being the one coming to Slaver's Bay, not Victarion. That's a last minute change, because the vision shows a Greyjoy smiling sadly, and that's clearly changed from Euron to Victarion, because he planned for Victarion to die, and then he makes Victarion fulfill the prophecy in the Victarion sample chapter. So he leaves the glass candles alone for a while, and then again he had this mega prologue, and then he ditches the mega prologue fairly late, and we're talking this is the last half year before the publication of A Feast for Crows. George writes a bunch of new prologues and edits them. And in the previous version of the prologue, the glass candle, again, it's now only the Archmaesters have them, but they still grant immortality. George cut that. And then again, now the glass candles, now there's only 4 glass candles and they don't work. And Jaqen H'ghar was searching for the glass candle, but now he's searching for a key, things like that. So, but yeah, this idea of tall and twisted, the glass candles weren't even that tall, like at first. So I'm trying to figure out when the sex dream is written. I would have to look up when the year and everything of the sex dream is written, and if it corresponds with like his rewriting of what glass candles do and what they look like and things like that, and Euron's, Moqorro's visions and stuff like that. But could her dream of being stabbed also be a glass candle? I don't know, maybe. But we kind of think of it and we're thinking, that it's an icicle penis or whatever. But maybe it's supposed to be Euron as well. But it's hard to say. Thoughts on King Tommen's tariff on the Associ and deporting all the Dornish. Each of these issues is huge. So let me talk about. So there's a lot of things that Trump is doing right now that are really fucking crazy and scary, and then there's things that he's doing that are theater. And a lot of it is determining what he can get. Maybe my guess is he's trying to determine what he can get away with and what he can't. So the deportation, the arrests. So as it turns out, Trump is actually arresting fewer people per day than Biden did. And arresting people at a greater rate doesn't really do anything. So when you arrest somebody, I'm talking about an undocumented person, you then have to detain them, and then they get a court date, which is often years. And then they go through the court date, and then they get deported. Now, you can, when you're arrested, opt to be deported immediately. And some people do, because they don't want to be detained, because you're sometimes in ICE detention for up to 6 months. 6 months is the limit. If you're in ICE detention for more than 6 months, they let you out. But so keep in mind that, like, if you're undocumented, the probable situation in your life would be you would be detained for 6 months. They would let you out, and then you'd wait another 1.5 years, 2 years for your court date. And then in your court date, they would determine whether or not they're going to deport you or not. Everybody gets a court date. And this is, unless you've already like reneged on a court date or you're a violent criminal or something like that. Like you get a court date. And the reason is because there's a lot of family connections between undocumented and American citizens. So say you are undocumented, but you are the mother of a American citizen and you're the primary caretaker. Well, they're not going to deport you, because now all of a sudden this 10-year-old kid or a baby or whatever who is a citizen would no longer have a caretaker. So people like that can stay usually, So this is why they have these court dates. So You can ramp up arrests all day long. But if you don't have enough bed space, that means every person you arrest, somebody gets let free. There's a finite number of beds in America at ICE detention centers. So keep that in mind. Every time someone is arrested, someone else is released. You know? And then so let's say you built a whole bunch of beds. Well, you need judges. You need immigration judges to actually do the court dates. So, so there's a finite number of people that can actually be deported every year by ICE. It's somewhere around 350,000 people. That's how many. And more than that come in every year. So, or about that many. So you're not really denting like how many undocumented people there are in America. There are roughly between 10 and 15 million undocumented people in America. So say ICE started arresting. I mean, you can just do the math here. Say ICE, and the ICE does do that. Let's say they're really high and they arrest 1,000 people a day. And say they're even able to deport 1,000 people a day. They're not, but you would deport in a year 365,000 people. But of course, more people come in. But let's say no one new comes in and you're deporting 365,000 people a year. Well, I mean, you can do the math here. Like, how long does it take to get to 15 million? Right? So you're talking about am I doing my math at like 45 years to try to deport everybody? It's just logistically impossible. So now this doesn't to say like the fear in people isn't real. And when undocumented don't show up to their job for fear that they're going to be arrested, that's not a real, that's a real thing. That's going to affect our economy. That's going to affect their lives. But it is largely impossible. It is an impossible task to deport the United States' undocumented population. It is impossible. We do not have the resources. We just can't do it. Now, could something else happen? Could they start being like violent and cruel and start doing weird things to cause people to flee? Maybe, but it is impossible to deport everybody. Just look at the numbers. You're talking about like with nobody else new came in, it would take you 30, 40 years to deport everybody. Impossible. Tariffs, they're fucking real. Like that's going to fucking crash the economy. We're all going to be fucking hurting. If you've got any investments, like, sorry, America might go into a depression. Like that's just going to happen, unless there's some sort of turnaround, And the thing is it's only been fucking 2 weeks and it's like 5 fires a day of horrible shit. Like the anti-trans stuff, the destroying USAID, like hiring freezes, planes crashing, deportation, like people scaring people, deportation. Like, oh my God, like it's exhausting. Like threatening war with Panama, threatening war with Greenland, Denmark, threatening war with Canada. Like it's exhausting. And it's only 2 weeks. What's going to happen this week? Is there going to be a whole new slew of horrible things coming? Probably. How does this end? I don't know. Best case scenario, like the lawyers wake up and the politicians wake up and they start saying, hey, actually, this is Congress's function. What are you doing? That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you're talking like war, either civil or international, depression. Like this is much worse than I thought. You guys all like saw me during the year leading up to the election. And I said, this would be, if Trump was in, it would just be a horrible, horrible situation. It's much worse than I thought. It's worse than I imagined. So. Hey, Preston, I'd like to speak to you about my Rosetta Stone for A Song of Ice and Fire. I sent you an email. I'm sorry. I can't. I saw your email. I just, write me what you got. I usually I can read emails and everything, but yeah. I'm always interested in new ideas that are interesting. Though I do question whether there's like some sort of grand new thing that unlocks everything at this point. Um, uh, I've stepped back quite a bit from my position. Like keep in mind like how starry eyed I was after A Dance with Dragons and A Feast for Crows, and seeing all the detail that George put in, and how I was just like, oh my god, he has a master plan for everything. And then, you know, time goes by and I'm like, I guess he didn't have a master plan for everything. So, um, Victarion going to get a horn blown. Three guys blowing once live longer than Cleghorn. Unifies the Unkaian Marine. Volantene fleet gets his dragon just in time for Danny to come back to his sexy smile. See, I do wonder about, so I think I think you guys all know that I think Chekhov's bacon is a thing, and Victarion is going to trap a dragon um, with his hulls filled with pork. Um, Whether that means that he's going to fly it, or if he's going to stick around and uh, talk to Danny and try to like say, I'll give you your dragon back for something, you know, maybe he'll try to extort her, or if he's just going to leave without her, who knows? I mean, he's in the vision, right? And that there is a Greyjoy on the prow of a ship. So a Greyjoy has to be in her life at some point, or else why warn her, you know, of this? Just that he takes the dragon, you know, she has to talk to him at some point. So I don't know. But how they're going to interact, I don't know how they'd interact. I almost feel like, at least in the fanfic, I don't know how, and so I'm going to have Victarion leave. But I'm not sure that George would necessarily do that, because there is the idea that Victarion is in the vision, or at least it used to be Euron, it's now Victarion in the vision. Shouldn't Danny know that he's in the vision, you know, and meet him, and that being relevant to her, you know? I don't know. I mean, I guess she saw a vision of the Red Wedding. Was that very important for her to know about? Like, why are you sending me a vision of the Red Wedding? What am I going to do about it? I'm in Qarth. I'm a 16-year-old girl in Qarth. What am I going to do about the Red Wedding? Why are you sending me this vision? So maybe. Yeah, so I don't know about what's going to happen to the three guys. Are they going to die? I play with the idea that the horn has like radiation on it, and so everybody's dying of radiation poisoning, or that Cleghorn never died, that we don't really have any full verification that Cleghorn died. So I don't know. And yeah, and the fucking Volantene fleet. Fucking Volantene fleet. There's too many like you realize, yeah, George threw too many balls in the air. He threw too many balls in the air, and he didn't even resolve them all. The Myronese knot. Like, the Myronese knot, he supposedly, like, cut it, but he didn't really cut it. Because you think about all the shit that's still, like, you're still juggling around there. Just finished Tough. What's your favorite story? My favorite Tough story is definitely Guardians. I think Guardians is my favorite one. I think it's just the most interesting. I think it's the one where you know, George has kind of the most to say, and Tough has the most to say to people, and it's the most surprising of everything. I'm trying to think, like, if I think about the 7 stories, like, so 3 of the stories are the same story. Okay. Like the food trilogy is the same fucking story, and it's fine. But I don't know if that story deserved 3 fucking stories for the food trilogy. I think his opening of the Plague Star with the on the ship, and I think that's fun. I don't know if Beast for Norn. Hmm. Pretty indifferent on Beast for Norn. I think the Plague Star is really fucking fun. I think that's a really fucking fun story. And I think Guardians, I like Guardians the most. And I think the Food trilogy is pretty forgettable. I'm trying to remember what's the seventh? I'm totally blanking here. It's oh, Column Moses. Colin Moses is a weird one because he's fucking so mean to that dude who's like following him around. But I've totally forgotten what happened in Colin Moses. Yeah, no, I think Guardians is the best one, and I think Plague Star is number two. As you know, um, I don't really care about Loaves for Fishes, Second Helpings, or Manna for Heaven. I don't know. But I think Colin Moses, I guess, has interesting characterization. I do think his like character that follows him around in that is interesting. He like, yeah, it's been a while now though. Um, mm, 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 mm. Mm. Is coke really the high class drug? Like, what the fuck? Um, hmm. I'm trying to think of like drug use because when I've run into cocaine and when I've run into different drugs and which drugs are considered high class. Um, to be honest, the people that I've known that have used cocaine tend to be people that were working night shifts and would get off really late and would want a drug that would keep them awake. And so cocaine was kind of it. Um, so I wouldn't necessarily say it was really high class, but uh, so I don't know. Is the are there? That's the thing is, are there any high class drugs? I don't know. I don't tend to run into them in my circles. I understand that like movies and TV shows show all these like rich people like doing drugs, and such. But I just, in my experience being around when I've been around wealthy people, I haven't seen them partaking in drugs very often. Um, every once in a while you see it. But I think it's more. I mean, and granted, maybe it's an East Coast West Coast thing. Maybe if you're in LA and you're around all of these like rich celebrities and there's like drugs being used, you just associate drugs with wealth. But for the most part, like I don't see it. Like the wealthy people I know, um, doctors that I've known, they tend to not do any drugs. Um, and it's mainly because they need steady hands. Lawyers that I know tend to be big alcoholics, because they can do their job hungover. but but um, and then I don't know, like when I've met people that were say addicted to opiates, like they were not wealthy. People that used weed were kind of all over the map economically, but um, I don't know. It just I've never in my experience I've never been around high class drugs. Maybe again, maybe if you live in New York City or you live in LA or something, it's a different world. But the world I've been around when I've run into rich people, they just tend not their drug is alcohol, if they have one, but or yeah, that's about it. So I don't know. Yeah, I've just not me. It's just, I mean, when I watch these like movies and stuff, like it doesn't relate to anything that I've ever seen in my life. It's not that I haven't been around and seen people using cocaine and other drugs, but like, it was like a buddy of mine used to be addicted to coke because he was a DJ at a strip club, and everyone would finish at like 4:30 in the morning or like finish at 3 in the morning and then want to go out until like 6. And so they were all on blow, you know. But have you seen Blue Velvet? I've seen pieces of Blue Velvet. I think I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I've not seen Blue Velvet all the way through. I've only seen pieces. I'm trying to think of all the David Lynch I've seen. And um okay, I tried to watch Eraserhead. If people have seen Eraserhead, you know what I'm talking about. I tried to watch Eraserhead. People's fucking but I've seen The Elephant Man, which is fucking brilliant. That is a beautiful movie. I've seen Dune, which I think people trash more than it deserves. I haven't seen Blue Velvet all the way through. I haven't seen Wild at Heart all the way through. I've seen Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me. I've seen Lost Highway. I've not seen The Straight Story. I've seen Mulholland Drive. I've not seen Inland Empire, and I watched Twin Peaks. But yeah. Should I? Is Blue Velvet worth it? I should watch Blue Velvet. I guess, you know. Preston, do you think the market's going to crash? I think the market's going to crash. I think the market's crashing tomorrow. My hope is that it'll crash really bad, and then all of a sudden there'll be a reversal on these tariffs. But I don't know. You know, I think that it's going to be. Thanks for teaching me about Transnistria. Good luck. On my Patreon, I released a sample chapter from my book, and there's some mentions of the country of Transnistria, which is a breakaway country in Moldova, in between Ukraine and Moldova. It's an interesting. I've been there. It's an interesting place. I mean, not that interesting. I mean, you can see the whole country in a day, but it's. Hopefully I'll try to get the book published this week. But thanks, I learned what Transnistria is. Good luck. But yeah, hopefully. I'm going to really try, and I'll feel so much better once I get the book off my plate, because then I'll be spinning fewer plates. You know, people are always like, "Oh, I want you to produce this kind of video. I want you to produce another the Winds of Winter sample chapter. I want this. And like one of the things that just takes a lot of my time, or at least my mental and in a mental anguish sense, is the book. And once I get that off my plate, I'll just feel so much fucking better about doing these other things. Loris chapter. I don't know. I'm not adding any more POVs other than the prologues and epilogues. I think when Trump inevitably leads us to another Great Depression, the Great Again Depression, does this speed up or slow down towards his progress on the one wins? Look, no, George's progress on wins has very little to do with the outside world. I think his progress on wins has to do with his personal life and his problems with the story, and maybe his economic life. Like, yes, there are various things that could speed up the Winds of Winter. If Dunk and Egg and House of the Dragon are both canceled and no one wants any more George R. R. Martin products, like other products, yeah, that would absolutely speed things up, you know? But I think he has things going on. I think he has private things going on in his life that I don't want to speculate on, but I think he has private things in his life. I think he has, and I think he's distracted by all the other projects and how much time it takes to handle and administer an empire of $100 million. Like, keep in mind that like if you were George Wealthy, okay, and you own, like, let's just even step back. You're George Wealthy, and just think about the cinema you own and the house you own, and which has, I mean, his house has like horses and shit. He's got assistants and all these sorts of people. Like, he has to worry about their set. Like, people are like, oh, he's got people to handle all that. Well, no, he's got to like, you've got to sign documents, you have to pay salaries, you have to negotiate with people, you deal with all the interpersonal skills. I mean, this is like saying like, if as a worker, when you made it up to manager, did you have more time? No, you didn't have more time. Like, you're not doing the work anymore, but you're managing. Like, so just the fact that George has $100 million, he's gonna be busy fucking managing all of that. But even beyond that, like, he does have all those projects. He does have, and yeah, I think he's massively stuck with the story, and I think he's got personal issues. So I think that, yeah, this is another thing that might depress him, but it's I don't think it's gonna do much, you know. But yeah, well, you know, Great Depression will be in unfortunately won't speed things up. Thank you, Eldon White. I appreciate you. Sam 8 dying. Great again depression. Yeah, that's pretty funny actually. Make America Great Again, the Great Again depression. Ah, fuck. That's fucking brilliant. I remember thinking back to my first time reading Lord of the Rings and thinking, wait a minute, how did basically none of the main characters die? Oh my God. You're so right. Gandalf survives. Merry, Pippin, Sam, Frodo all survive. Bilbo survives. Gimli survives. Legolas survives. Aragorn survives. I mean, essentially just Boromir. I mean, oh my God, you're so right. And that's a major weakness. That's a major fucking weakness now that I think about it. A few of them should have fucking died. A few of them. Will Fagon be that popular in Westeros? It seems that people won't like him mainly because he's invading with another army. I think that he doesn't need to be loved. Is the way I interpret it. I do think you're correct. Like, why would this person coming out of nowhere be suddenly loved? And I think it's more to do with, this is an opportunity for all of these people. They either hate the Lannisters and just want anybody, or they see this as an opportunity to steal shit. Like, this is our chance to like take lands and selfishly like take over. I think it's that kind of thing. And I touched on this a bunch when I did Elaine 2, that, you know, all these guys are talking about what they need to do on their invasion of the Riverlands, and people are like, wait a minute, but succession wise, that doesn't make sense. And they're like, who fucking cares? Okay. We're taking lands. Okay. Like, all of these lands in the Riverlands, like, all the lords got killed off, and we've got all these like widows and daughters. We can come in because we're a bunch of like lowly sellswords and knights, you know, who don't have lands, second sons, and all of a sudden we can get lands. I think greed is the answer to that. Do they like Aegon? No, but they like greed. I mean, let's think about another one. Let's fucking talk about Trump. Do people like Trump, or do they fucking like greed? Right? Do all these followers of Trump, like, I'm not talking about the redneck who worships him. I'm talking about JD Vance. I'm talking about Elon Musk. I'm talking about all of these sycophants. Do you think they like him? Do you think he's fun to be around? Or do you think they're greedy motherfuckers who think this is a chance to like get their piece of the pie? You know? if the Starks are the main family, then why is it? Um, if the Starks are the main family, then why is it what we consider Starkness is always punished in the story? More Stark, more dead. Starks are not acting like Starks allows them to live. Hmm. Like, why are the Starks ever successful in history, right? Right? If Ned acting like Ned gets him killed, Rob acting like Rob gets him killed, John acting like John gets him killed. Um, and then George has specifically said that like Sansa doesn't really act like a Stark, and Arya doesn't really. I mean, no one said this, but I don't think Arya acts like a Stark. Like um, and then Bran. Well, Bran's still alive, but but we've got our examples of Ned, Robin, and John. Should we include Catelyn in that too? I guess Cat too. Um, pre Stoneheart Catelyn. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, acting like Starks, right? Acting like Starks. I'm trying to think of like what about the Stark personality would allow for survival, and I think my mind goes to the wolf pack idea that that they stick together as a family, and that's what would help them survive. But the problem is that the Starks haven't stuck together as a family. Like the two people that stuck together, Cat and Rob, got killed together. So that didn't help. But all the other Starks are separated quite a bit. Though one could make the argument that like when Bran and John crossed paths, they did protect each other for that moment. But or that maybe they're not acting like Starks and therefore like they get punished for it. Like they need to fucking get back into the pack, and then they'll start surviving. The only thing we've learned is that like Ned had this like advice, and then he didn't follow it. Nobody followed it, and they all fucking died. The lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. Yeah, well, you fucking lone wolves died one by one. No packs, no packs. Um, will any great house go extinct in the main story? I'm trying to think even just how possible it is. Um, the Lannisters have a fuckload of people in their family. It's really hard to fucking kill them all off. I mean, we've done our best, but like, let me see if I can. What the closest is House Aaron, right? House Aaron is probably the closest to dying off. I mean, there are supposed to be some Aaron cousins or Aaron people, but like Sweet Robin is essentially it, right? These others are like minor Aarons. So House Aaron is the closest to dying off. But the problem is that like because Sweet Robin is so weak, no one kind of thinks that it's going to happen. Like because George is always going to subvert expectations. So let's look at House Lannister here, right? So we've so Cersei, let's say Cersei and all her kids die. That's possible. Jaime, Tyrion's not going to have any kids. Maybe he's going to die off. Maybe Tyrion will live, but we don't think of it. But let's see. Kevin's line. Lancel could probably get killed off. He might die in that trial by combat if he's the one fighting for the faith. Willem got killed, right? Martin's still alive. He's young. I don't know what we're gonna, but almost so young to. He's old enough to go into battle, but even that, this character Janae, who we're just never gonna fucking hear about, 4-year-old kid or something, like nothing. Like, are they gonna kill her off? Um, Jenna's kids. I think she has some young ones, right? Ty and Will. I think Red Walder's still alive. Oh, but do they count as Freys, or whatever? Garion. And then there's the whole fucking Joanna line, right? If we're because there's the cousin, right? The Joanna. So we've got like Stafford, Davin, and Karina, Morella. Like it's just too many people, man. It's just too many fucking people for the Lannisters to die off. Plus we hear about these Daemon Lannister and Damian, whatever, all these people. So I don't think the Lannisters are close. And the Tullys. The Tullys are pretty close. Right? There's not much Tullys left. And the Baratheons are pretty close. With the Martells, we hear about cousins again. So it's hard to. And the Tyrells, there's a fucking bazillion of them. So who could die off? I mean, the Baratheons are pretty close to dying off. But you could legitimize some bastards, right? Because Robert had so many bastards. The Tullys are really fucking close to dying off. That could happen. And the Arryns are really close to dying off. But Sweet Robin's fucking invincible. And then the Starks. I mean, it would be a situation where it doesn't seem like Sansa's going to die. She would have to, her husband would eventually have to take her name, and then their kids would be Starks. But because it doesn't seem like Arya's going to have any kids, Rickon might die, Bran can't have kids. So yeah, I mean, Starks are close too, but I think the closest is the Tullys. The Tullys are the closest to dying off. So yeah, but who knows? Who knows? An idea for Princess Vela for the fanfic. I imagine her as Margaret the Maid of Norway, maybe dying on her way north to marry Stark or Manderly. Let's see, we're talking about the daughter of Daron the Drunkard. Is that the idea? Yeah, okay. Unless there's another Vela that I'm not. No, there's one under Aenys the First. Vela Daron the Drunk. So So during the Dunk and Egg time period, late Dunk and Egg time period, we have a great council in 233, and the different people come forward, and Aerion Brightflame is dead. Daron the Drunkard is dead. Aemon is Maester of the Citadel. Their kids are all kind of young. Maegor, and according to at least George Mormont, Maegor, they feared that Maegor was just as crazy as his father, and Vela's a girl, and I think she's supposed to be I'm not sure if oh no, yeah, she was. Vela was also mentally handicapped. So everybody chose Egg, So I don't know if they'd even need her to be dying off, considering that because she has special needs, maybe that no one wanted to marry her. So I don't know, or maybe she had something else going on and she just died of natural causes. The other Vela, um, the other Vela we're talking. This is back in the days of um, of like Dreamfire Reina and Jaehaerys and stuff like that. But she died not long after birth, so she was just a baby. So I don't know. I don't know what happened to our simple-minded Vela. Um, you know, we don't know if she was actually like mentally handicapped. Um, should be called the War of Six Kings, since Mance is declared king, trying to invade Westeros from the north. Um, yeah, probably. But I'm also thinking, like, is there another king? Is there another king that we're missing even? Um, besides Mance. I mean, I suppose it's funny because it's like all grouped together. Like I guess this would have worked better when George had his 5 year gap. But like when you think about like historically speaking, would anyone even separate Dany's invasion and Aegon's invasion like from the War of the Five Kings in retrospect? Um, so so did you know that in Asia, the Japanese don't call it World War II World War II. They call it the I think the 17-year war or something like that. I'm trying to think 1940 because they measure it from 31 to 40 no 13-year war. Yeah, I think they call it the 13-year war because they measure it from different days, like invasion of, or China calls it, like the invasion of Manchuria by the Japanese in 1931, and things aren't really resolved. Or is it the 14-year war? So we're talking about inclusive counting and stuff like that. Yeah. 14. I guess they call it the 14-year war. Japan and China call it the 14-year war. Yeah. Um, and yeah, from their perspective, considering it's continuous fighting, that why would they refer to it as World War II? And it's like, to them, it's not necessarily connected to the first war, the same way that Westerners think about the Second World War being a continuation of the First War, right? Um, so it's funny because like 100 years later, when they look back on this period and they go, okay, well, there was a War of the Five Kings, and then literally like 9 months later, like another king arrives, like and takes over. You'd be like, oh, really? Like, or even Tommen. Like, does Tommen count as another king? And is because the war is still going on. Like the war is still going on. Oh, and Euron too. Like, how many kings are we gonna count? Um, at this point, because like the war, like the Ironborn never, submit. They just change kings, and Euron's king, and he's still doing war. The War of the Five Kings isn't over for him. Riverrun hasn't even like submitted. They're still fighting in the north. Like the Boltons and Stannis are still going. So like the fact that Stannis is still alive means the War of the Five Kings is still going on. So in a way, it's a lot more kings than five, isn't it? The five, like if there were a 5 year gap, you could have had a War of the Five Kings, but now how would you even call it? The War of the Five Kings is a silly kind of thing. War of the Ten Kings. War of the Ten Kings and a couple queens. But yeah, I think maybe in the fanfic we'll make a statement about that. War of the Five Kings. How many kings do we have? War of the Five Kings is still going on. Um, I think Americans will start a movement to resist militarization. I mean, we'll see. We'll see about what kind of street protests happen. I know a few protests are cropping up here and there, but it hasn't been like American culture for a while to go to the streets. I mean, we have marches, but I'm talking like legitimate protests where people sit in squares for a month at a time. Um, Canada owes the USA oil. I don't understand why. I don't understand this. Um, Maybe he's being facetious. Okay. John as an ice white becomes an icy Moabdib to the others. Fire white for Mel, ice white for others. Either way, he's just going to get in the way now. Battle for John's body. Well, I think that George kind of has already spoiled in interviews that John is going to be a fire white. Even though this goes against all of the ideas of Stark being ice. Man, back in the day, like when people were all about the whole John Starkarian guy who was going to save the universe. Everyone was always like, Danny is fire, Bran is ice, John is ice and fire, and all these sort of things. Like Lyanna is ice, Rhaegar is fire, therefore he's ice and fire, and that's the key to everything. R plus L equals J. Doot, ice and fire. But if he's going to come back as a fire white. Like we've already established that there is George has used this in interviews, like the concept of the fire white. He's never talked about the ice white, but we assume that the ice white is what the others are bringing back. But that like Beric Dondarrion and Lady Stoneheart are fire whites. And so if they're being brought back by R'hllor, if John's being brought back by R'hllor, then he's a fire white. So, but if John is brought back as an ice white, like the others animate him, yeah, it's kind of a weird one though. Then he's kind of like, because the ice whites don't seem that smart. But could he be an icy Moabdib? I don't know. Let's see. Trump says ICE is prioritizing violent criminals, violent undocumented criminals. Is that happening? So it's long been a policy of ICE, started under Obama, that ICE does prioritize violent criminals. And because like I said, they can only arrest and they only have bed space for a certain number of people. So what ICE does is they stand outside of prisons, and when violent criminals like finish their situation with say they're in there for robbery or murder, they get out and then they're immediately arrested by ICE and on the process of deportation. However, the ones that he's putting in the news, like doing raids, well, that's not focusing on violent criminals. That's just grabbing randos, right? Random workers. So it's not that ICE doesn't have the policy of prioritizing violent criminals, but at the same time, like the raids on TV are not that. So it's also like not something new. Like what Trump is trying to say is that like he's now taking action and we're rounding up the violent criminals. Well, no, ICE always had the policy. Well, not always, but since Obama had the policy of focusing on violent criminals by standing outside of prisons. Like they literally just stand outside of prisons and like arrest them when they come out. While these raids and the people that you've been seeing on TV, the ones flown by military jets, no, those aren't violent criminals. Like those were just random people that they wanted to make look like that. So it's weird. Keep in mind, I used to work for the Department of Homeland Security. Like it was a lifetime ago, but I used to work for the Department of Homeland Security. I did audits of ICE. Like this is stuff I kind of know about. So like it's all kind of weird. Which I say it's a bit of theater. It's a lot of theater with regards to the deportation stuff because it's such an impossible task. Yeah. Um, hey, my super chat was skipped. All right, Whobase. Let's see. Here we go. Hey. No, I talked about. I talked to you. I talked to you about this. I brought this up. Um, let's see here. Let's get me. Let's see here. Hold on. Okay. How can it be worse than you imagine? Trump's first term was a million times worse. I thought I was screaming into a void in 2016. This time around, it's gone way better than I expected. But everyone is super nihilistic. No, I mean, not where I'm standing. Like, keep in mind that like we're 2 weeks in, but um, Trump's first um, go around. Keep in mind that he failed to do almost everything that he wanted to do. You know, like he tried the Muslim ban, and then he did one thing at a time, and they legally stopped it, and then he would try these things, and then he'd fail. And so the most damaging things that Trump did, besides fucking up COVID, was the Supreme Court, which eventually, you know, overturns Roe v. Wade, and tax cuts for the rich. Okay, well, tax cuts for the rich, you know, put us more in debt, whatever, fine. But that's essentially the most damage was done was the Supreme Court. Right now, what the way I see it is worse is one, the tariffs are going to send us into depression. I mean, COVID was what he did with COVID was botched, but one could argue that it was going to be pretty bad anyway. So how much, you know, but you're talking like breaking like, you know, there was a lot of like in the first thing like threatening to leave NATO, but he never left NATO, you know, like he made all of our allies like nervous, but then he never did. And now it sounds like he's making them into enemies. Like Denmark and Canada are and Mexico are enemies now. Like it's just crazy. Also being associated with the government in DC, like it is just fucking nuts. I can't understand. So like I don't know, like they shut down all foreign assistance. Like all foreign assistance was shut down. Like, you know, US provides food assistance to people, like all of it. Everybody that's in USAID right now isn't working. They're not doing anything. They're shut out of their emails. And they all think that their agency is going to be shut down. Now, keep in mind, Bush tried to shut down USAID, but Congress funds stuff, so you can't legally do it. But what's weird is the fact that things are happening that are illegal that people are just like shrugging and being like, well, not going to do anything. So like the firing of the inspector generals, like that was illegal, but everyone just kind of let it happen. And so that's what's kind of weird this time around. Like, and all the Doge stuff, like breaking in, having Elon Musk break in and shove, like without he has no clearance, but his people are breaking in and getting into all the government computer systems. That's fucking scary. That's fucking really fucking scary. And so it seems much, much worse this time. Much, much worse. I mean, like legitimate, we're 2 weeks in. This didn't happen last time. I mean, we're talking like threats of actual war with Panama and Greenland and Denmark, and like, like tariffs to drive us into a depression, like with because of Canada and Mexico, and turning those allies into enemies. It's pretty bad. Like I can't think of anything. Like I don't see how any I don't know how anyone can justify it all. I just don't get it. You know, I understand that like some MAGA person is going to like downvote me or something and then go on their alt account and try to downvote me again. But like, you're fucking morons. Like MAGA people are fucking morons if they're still like they were always morons. But like at this point, like what do you see here? Like what advantage? Like what do tariffs get us? What did these tariffs get us? Like I thought this was about the price of eggs. These fucking lying hypocrites, you know? These fucking lying hypocrites being like, it was all about the price of eggs. Oh, really? Well, you know what's going to fucking happen to your price of eggs right now? Oh my God. Not to be annoying, but the Asha chapter this month, definitely this month. Don't worry about that. But like I said, I'm trying to get my book out and then back to the Asha chapter. You know, still like I was distracted a bit by putting Cersei together and lots of other things. Like obviously this fucking situation. It's hard for me right now because keep in mind that like, you know, when I get on, you know, conference calls, like I said, people are really worried about their lives. Like people around me are really worried about their fucking lives. Like it's bad. It's fucking bad. People are very worried. We've never seen this kind of stuff. We've never seen just like this blatant disregard for the law. Blatant like goons, fucking goons breaking into government buildings and accessing classified systems. Like I don't know how to describe it. It's just, you know, and people like, you can be like, oh, it's illegal. Well, who's stopping them? Because these fucking goons are going into government offices and like plugging shit. First of all, like you're not allowed to plug anything into computers like in the government. Like that's like number one rule. And they're just like these MAGA goons, like these Doge goons are like plugging shit into government systems. I don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like no one knows what the fuck they're doing. Like, why are you doing that? Why is Elon Musk wresting control of the government's payment system? Like, why did he do that? I don't know. Like, I don't know. Is he trying to threaten like government workers better follow us or else you're not going to get paid? Or is he like trying to take our PII, our personal information and like use that against us? Like it's seriously, it's weird threatening emails and shit like that people are flipping out. It's fucking scary shit. So Oh, stance on 2A shifting. I'll even paint some pink. Also doubt border blue states by their state legislature, not 24, will allow Fed military passage into Canada. Detroit will have tanks on cinder blocks. I don't, what's 2A shifting? What does this mean? Yeah, I'm not sure what 2A shifting, but like, what states will allow? I mean, like I say, like, so from our perspective, like from the perspective of like, why isn't anyone stopping them? Like everyone's just like, oh, that's illegal. Like, there's a lot of things that have happened in the past 2 weeks where I'm like, well, that's impossible because that's illegal. And then it's happened, and no one stopped them. And it might just because the law is slow. I don't know, but like I say, like Elon Musk's goons like breaking into government offices and shoving their shit into computers, and like the fucking threatening emails that we've gotten as employees, and how fucking frightened everyone is, and like and the firing of all the inspector generals, like and the tops of USAID, like 60 people or something were fired and things like this. Like these were all illegal actions, and like no one stopped them. And I don't understand why no one stopped them. Because maybe there's when things are illegal, it's like, well, do you have any? Yeah, it's illegal, but who's like, what mechanism do you have to enforce the law? Well, maybe there is no mechanism to enforce the law. So like when we're talking about like, can we, like these tariffs, like why doesn't Congress do something? Like why doesn't somebody do something? Because people are cowards. No one wants to be the person to stand up. Hey, do you guys, you familiar with the phrase "bell the cat"? No one wants to bell the cat. When everyone knows that we need to bell the cat, but no one wants to be that mouse. Real talk. Coke is fine. Coke can be real shitty. Or back on the drug thing. Human horn is the highest class drug. Oh man. I mean, human horns should just be the same as like fingernails, right? It's the same. What? Anonymous asks, I fancy a black girl from North Carolina. Give me some tips. Have you tried talking to her? don't bring up the fact that she's black. Just talk to her. Try not to be like, I only dig her because she's black. I don't mind if that's the reason you dig her. Everybody's into their things, but like, don't bring it up. Opinion on the well in the Night Fort being a hollow weirwood tree. Benefits to a weirwood boat. And makes Quentin get with Marcella team face scare thanks. Interesting. So that well, we had the weirwood growing up out of the well, didn't we? Because the weirwood is in that room. But you're saying the well itself is the trunk of the weirwood. I don't know. I don't know if that's necessary. I think one of the weird things is that there's a line in Ice and Fire that like about the weirwood at Raventree, and some people are like, oh, somebody makes a comment that like it died 1,000 years ago, and in another 1,000 years it might turn to stone. And everyone's like, haha, it's a half petrified weirwood tree. And it's like, no, you fucking you misread that passage completely. It's 1,000 years. It just means an eon. Like that's all it means in Ice and Fire. People use 1,000 years metaphorically, right? It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean literally 1,000 years. It means a long time. And so I think there's this like belief that like a lot of stone things used to be weirwoods, and that weirwoods turn to stone. Which the thing about petrification is when something is petrified, it's not turning to stone. There's no like transmutation of wood to stone. Okay. You've got a cell, like cells of the tree, and they fill with stone sediment over time, and like the cell walls and everything are eventually gone, but like that sediment that was originally there like stays, right? So you're not changing the tree into stone. Okay. And if it were to change, like wouldn't it now be something different? Like it's not Like the weirwood isn't changing to stone. When something petrifies, it doesn't change to stone. Sediment builds inside it and replaces the object that was originally there. There's no transformation. There's no transmutation going on. So I think like the stone, I mean, petrification takes place over like millions of years. Okay, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in the period of time that we're talking about with the Dreadfort. Like we're not talking about like 10,000 years. A tree can turn to stone. Like that's just we're just not in the same universe here. You know, like stuff doesn't come petrified like that. So I don't think that the well is the hollow weirwood tree. But or is the idea that like it was built upon a petrified like weirwood thing? But I don't know. But the benefits of a weirwood boat. So this I imagine you're getting at the fact of like Naga's ribs. So there's this idea that Naga's ribs are actually like a ship's beams. Like when you're talking about let's see, let me pull up like maybe this is like the best example. There's this like idea that like you know, like the wooden beams that make a ship hull are actually like the weirwood, and then they're petrified. And this is this idea of like the stone, the petrified weirwoods on great, that the ribs are actually weirwood trees, and that they used to look inward and things like that in a great ring. And again, you know, we're talking like if there was some sort of weirwood there, and it's such a weird thing because having stuff petrified by the ocean is such a weird place for something to be petrified. Okay, like that's not how petrification works. Like petrification tends to be places where there's like geothermic springs coming up, because you need to have the sediment in the water like going through a system. And so like next to an ocean would just be like the least likely place that something would be petrified. So yeah, this idea that like Naga's ribs are actually petrified weirwoods, and yes, it's definitely implied by our author. So maybe our author doesn't know anything about petrification, and maybe he like really is thinking about weirwood transforming to stone. I don't know. It's but like, why would the boat be weirwood? I mean, got to build your boat out of something, right? Got to build your boat out of something. Because then we think about the sand ship. The sand ship is also stone. Maybe the weirwoods are like something extraterrestrial, and they're not stone. Like maybe it's some sort of this is the thing. You got to go like, in order to make all this make sense, because it doesn't fucking make sense. Things don't petrify that quickly. They're petrified in the wrong place. You're not going to find petrified stuff like on a small island in the middle of the ocean, and not in these time periods. Like the only way you can kind of like make sense of it all is either to go full magic and be like, well, weirwoods are magical, and therefore weirwood trees transform into stone, or you go full sci-fi and be like, well, it's not actually stone, and it's not actually wood. Okay, it's some sort of strange organic matter that this super advanced bioengineering race used, and when it dies, it seals and becomes this incredibly hard like polymer plastic, or something like that, to try to make it all like work out. One or the other. Oh, I just got a text from an old friend. I have to. But yeah, that's the. So I don't know the benefits. Like when you're talking about all these different mysteries, like why do how can Naga's ribs be werewoods and be petrified kind of situation? It No, it doesn't make any fucking sense. None of it makes any fucking sense. There's no reason that a bone would be petrified there. There's no reason a wood would be petrified there. Stuff just doesn't transform into stone. So you got to either go full magic or full fucking sci-fi on that, and be like the benefits is you're connected to the old gods, or you're connected to whatever strange bioengineering product you have that's like super would it be super light? What's the best wood for ships? Teak? Durability? You want something oily? Oak? Teak? Fir? I mean, is weirwood, maybe a weirwood is super durable? It's an old wood, I guess. I mean, I guess it'd be get to connect with the old gods as you sail. I don't know. Have you ever watched Economics Explained videos? It's a good resource for getting the basic understanding of past and current economic issues. Or is he? No, you know what? Somebody has sent me Economics Explained before. I think had about China, and it was actually really shit. Like it was fucking horrible. Oh God, no, this guy sucks. Oh my God. I mean, maybe he was just going clickbait, but like, I'm just gonna go through these different things, okay? Because, I mean, granted, I'm not watching these fucking videos, but like, can tariffs actually work? Step one, tariffs. No economist, like believes that they would work. Like none. Okay, none. Why nations fail? I don't know. Most important economic schools of thought: classical versus Austrian versus Keynesian. First of all, this is so fucking wrong. Like it boggles my mind that someone would put this. First of all, no one follows Austrian school. Okay, no legitimate economist follows Austrian school. Okay, nobody. That's this right here. The fact that he would even give space to Austrian school is just, I'm just like, he's a fucking quack. He's a quack. But two, the other two schools of thought are not classical and Keynesian. Okay, there aren't any classical or Keynesians anymore. There's neoclassical and neo-Keynesians. And that's a huge fucking difference. There is a huge fucking difference between classical and neoclassical and Keynesian and neo-Keynesian. Okay, a bunch of them, like Milton Friedman, monetary policy, but also fucking rational expectations, like Robert Lucas' rational expectations, is part of neoclassical and neo-Keynesian. Okay, it makes them completely fucking different schools. Okay, there's no classical economists left, and there's no Keynesian economists left, because everyone agrees that yes, like rational expectations and like Milton Friedman monetary policy, like plays a role. Whether you like believe the whole thing or not, everybody believes some of it. Okay, so like this thumbnail makes me think he's a fucking quack. How Europe sabotaged its big what? Why economists? How tariffs actually work? The miracle. See, it's just like, oh my God, was dropping the gold standard mistake, and then he has Nixon. Oh my God. Oh. this guy's a fucking quack, dude. Okay. Oh my God, he's such a fucking quack. First of all, like the belief that Nixon dropped the gold standard is just so fucking wrong. Like oh God, fucking, oh my God. All right, now you've made me like upset. No, the guy's a fucking quack. So when you start talking like online, there's a bunch of these like conspiracy theory people about like who bring up the gold standard as like this really important thing that like Nixon got rid of and it's like totally changed the world. And it's like, no, it didn't. Like it didn't. Because it's a lack of understanding of history. Like the gold standard didn't apply to everything. Like Nixon dropped the gold standard on physical currency, but like how much currency is physical? Like it's such a small part of what currency is, right? Like your bank statement, like think about yourself, like how much of your money is physical? So like, or, oh no, all of your money's in the bank, right? Like, then why does it matter? Like if there's a gold standard to like your physical currency, like, and this is the big thing. Cause like when you talk to these quacks, they'll talk about like governments printing money, like, oh, they can just print money and go to war. No, that's not how we fucking do money. We issue treasury bonds. Like there's like the T-bills, and T-bills didn't have the gold standard since like the 20s. Like, oh my fucking God. No. Economics Explained. Like I could just look at those fucking quack. Okay, fucking quack. Please do not get your fucking econ knowledge from fucking YouTube videos. You have to fucking take classes. I'm sorry. Like you have to fucking go to school and get a degree to understand economics. You're not going to be able to understand like things from YouTube videos by quacks. This is the problem. Oh my God. It's like my pursuit to understand physics by watching the physics YouTube videos. It's not like I'm not pulled in, but I kind of realize I'm not going to understand physics. Like I didn't fucking go to school. Like you have to fucking go to school. You have to fucking go to school to learn these things. Like universities do things. They teach you things. You have to take many classes that give you a broad spectrum of knowledge on stuff from actual experts and not quacks. Oh my God. How do you predict the Ukraine war ending? I mean, will it end? That's the thing is, will it end? Because you can kind of see like, let's say like Ukraine capitulates on everything. And they're just like, you know what? Russia, you can have all the current land right now. Just don't invade us again. Well, you know, in like a few years, Russia's going to fucking invade them again. Like, you know that. So the war doesn't stop that way. And then you go the other way and you say, okay, well maybe like Russia will finally like retreat out of those areas. And it's like, well, which ones, you know, like they're certainly not going to leave, like Donbass or, the peninsula like so easily. So that doesn't fucking work, you know? So I don't think it ends. I think it goes on for another fucking 10 years is what I think happens. You know, do I think it's like, it's going to hurt because I mean, Trump has already frozen Ukraine's funding, foreign assistance. So like, is that going to hurt Ukraine? Yeah. But hopefully European allies step up a bit and, you know, help Ukraine in that sense because it's in their best interest. So, I mean, I think Ukraine holds on. They just keep going. It just fucking goes and goes and goes and goes. That's it. That's it. I don't know if it ends. You know, took a while for Russia to get out of Afghanistan. They fucked up there for a while. Um, have you seen Peter Jackson's Brain Dead? I've never seen the whole thing through. I've seen pieces here and there, but I've not seen Brain Dead all the way through. Um, man, oh man. If George R. Martin wrote Lord of the Rings, Sam would have died on top of Rosie after Frodo sailed away, just to fuck with us. Yeah, I mean, Mary or Pippin would have died. I mean, a few people would have died. um, should George R. R. Martin have made it clear how bad it is to kill a dragon rider without killing the dragon to explain why Targs aren't assassinated all that much? I think he did kind of I mean, I think he screwed up a little bit in that he you want these dragons to be metaphorically nuclear weapons, right? That completely changed the game. But then he goes back and he world builds and he has to have Dorne somehow resist them. Well, okay, well that thematically takes away like the whole point of them being like these nuclear weapons and like the danger of saying having a mad woman with a nuclear weapon, like, and how this changes the game, you know? Like I think the Dance of the Dragons being a sort of mythological thing in the abstract, I think also works better. Now that we have so much very specific detail on the Dance of the Dragons, it also takes away from like how dangerous they were and how powerful they were. When you're just like, oh well, on this day, like they tricked the people in the dragon pit were able to kill all the dragons. You're like, oh, so they're not nuclear weapons? Like they're not complete game changers? You can just fucking sneak into the fucking dragon pit and kill them? So it's a. I think it was important that they were OP'd, and then they went and they un-OP'd them. George un-OP'd them. So, um, yeah. I mean, I think he should have just had like Targs aren't assassinated all that much because just no one could get to it, so no one could get near them. That they were just surrounded by people constantly, and that if you did, like, they would burn your whole fucking city down, something like that. But now, dragons were OP'd and then he un-OP'd them, so. Your wins vid was fire. Your got long vids are always are. Thank you. It took a bit of work, that one. I'm hoping to do another one about a bit of what we talked about, what I talked about at the beginning here about when each of the chapters happened, and just kind of the evolution of like when we know each of these chapters were written and what it tells us. Because there's a bit of a meta story when you start realizing little stuff about like what chapters are written around the same time as him writing Dunk and Egg. And then you're like, oh, that's why he's talking about Blackfires here. Because he was writing about Blackfires and Blackfires are on his mind. And I think you can actually glean a lot about like what's on George's mind and how it bleeds into another chapter because they're written near each other. I think that kind of stuff is interesting, so. But thank you, I do appreciate it. I worked a long time on it. It's not quite as viral as some of the other ones, but it's fine. Oops, wrong live stream. Who did he mean to be in? Hey, talk me off the ledge about T-Maester. I think it is only a matter of time before he ends judicial review by ignoring the courts. Oh. Also, what is with the FBI purge? His temporary appointments saying no. It's hard for me to say. I wish I could walk you off a ledge and say it's going to be okay. I can't do that. I think it's really bad. I think things are really bad. I think they're going to get worse. I think this is a really dangerous time. I mean, and you've all fucking been watching me on these streams for a long time, and I've usually been saying like, this is illegal. You can't do this and this and this and this. Now I'm fucking pulling all fucking alarms here. Like, this is fucking bad. This is really fucking bad. The economy is crashing this week. People are fucking breaking into government buildings, taking classified information. The FBI, yeah, they purged it. The cases involving, Trump are all that information is like, all those cases are done. The information is probably going to be like burned and destroyed so that we don't know everything that the FBI knew about the things that Trump did, especially related to the classified information that he had at Mar-a-Lago. So it's I wish I could talk you off a ledge. I can't. Like, it's fucking bonkers. Like, I have better oversight over what's going on at state and USID, but like you can't. I don't know what's happening at the FBI. I can't tell you. I just know that like federal employees are fucking weeping and upset and don't know what's happening in the future. So yeah, so it's rough. See, these things like avoiding things because it causes you stress. Like literally, like we can't avoid these things. Like, this is like people's fucking lives. These are. I mean, are you actually really like? Yeah. I mean. Fucking weirdos, man. Fucking weirdos. Um, should George have just not started the Dorne, Ironborn, and Fagon plots? It's so funny because it's like I love those fucking plots. They're like my favorite plots, right? Um, and it's like I love all the tangent stuff, but I also understand the tangent stuff like makes it really difficult to finish. Um, I don't know. I think there's easier ways to solve the story than to just cut, not start Dorne, Ironborn, and Fagon. I think honestly, like, if you have a really tough time with like Tyrion, kill Tyrion. Like, do it. If you have a tough time with Jon, keep him dead. Like, if you don't like, when a plot line starts becoming stale, fucking cut the plot line. I think there's easier ways than cutting some of the most exciting, cool, diverse, vibrant plot lines and not having them. I mean, let's be honest. Like, not like, I don't know. Did everyone like Arya walking around the Riverlands and Clash of Kings and A Storm of Swords? Is that considered people's favorite stuff? Like, some people, I'm sure, but like, he definitely has like weird filler that could have been cut. did people really care about Tyrion, and all of his like weird Shay stuff in A Clash of Kings, and so I don't know. I mean, um, I also think that like had he just really sat down and worked on things and didn't have these other distractions, he probably could have done it. He probably could have gotten it, gotten it all together. So I don't know. Yeah, it probably would have helped. Obviously, I just don't think it would have been good. Fucking Dorne, Ironborn, Vagon, like that's all Aegon. I'm just gonna go Aegon because I don't know if he's fake or not. But like that's some great fucking plots. Like God, would you want Ice and Fire without the fucking Kingsmoot? Would you really want to be reading that book? Would you want that? I wouldn't. It's like fucking great. Like would you really want to be reading Ice and Fire without the Sand Snakes? Would you really want that? Would you really want an Ice and Fire without Jon Con? Those are fucking the greatest. Those are the greatest things, right? Oh. If the Crown finds out that Arianne is meeting with Aegon, how will Nymeria Sand be treated at council? Isn't that open treason? Ooh, that's a very good point, and it's a point we're gonna have to fucking deal with. I mean, I suppose Nymeria would have to lie and say that like Arianne is a prisoner, that she was captured on like she was captured while visiting her friend Spotted Silva at Estermont, and that she would have to lie, right? She would have to lie that she was captured while at Estermont, and that she's not actually talking to them or something. She would just try to maintain the lie the entire time, something like that. I'm trying to think of what else you could do. I mean, you could claim she's Darkstar's lover, and that she's gone off the deep end, So I think that would probably be the best thing, is that Nymeria makes up a good lie that she was visiting her friend Spotted Silva at Estermont, and she's a prisoner, that she's not actually oh man, these fucking morons. By the way, this fucking moron, old school soundscape, like diverse beliefs. Like, dude, fascism isn't fucking diversity. Okay, like, oh, you're not open to fucking diverse beliefs like fascism. Like, fuck you, dude. Like, you think like it's also this attempt, this like broken fucking lame attempt to try to use liberal like talking points against themselves, like against us, as if like that's going to fool us. Like we're going to be like, but I thought liberals were into tolerance. You're supposed to tolerate me. And it's like, no, like liberals are never into tolerance. Okay. Like you're like, what about diversity? And you're like, no, we're not talking about that. We're talking about like, obviously like cultural diversity, like with regards to like, race, like we're not talking about poisoning stuff with like fascist beliefs, like diversity. It's so fucking stupid, because you can do this with anything. People are like, oh, I thought you wanted hands-off government, and yet you're sitting here like trying to restrict people's abortions. Like you can do it with any abstract principle and assign it to somebody else, somebody else, like so like no human being like ascribes to a single belief structure for all things. Like it's such a dumb straw man, Call back to Walgray's Forgotten Prince. Balon's sons were technically princes at a point, and Bloodraven was legitimizing. So another prince at the at Great Council of 233. Oh, interesting. This is the idea that last stream we were talking about, and I'm sure George didn't think about this, but like Walgrave has this gauntlet, and the he claims he forgot the prince who it was, but people mention like maybe he lied that he really did, but it's politically dangerous to reveal that he knew who it was, and that he's that it could be a gauntlet of some politically like dangerous like situation, like like the Dairies having Targaryen banners, like Walgrave is holding on to say a Blackfire relic, and so the idea is that we figured that like, oh, it'd be pretty cool if Walgrave was when he was young sent to the Great Council of 233 as one of the Maester observers, and Aenys Blackfire at some point when he was arrested like offered his gauntlet as a symbol of submission. He gets beheaded, the gauntlet goes rolling off somewhere, and Walgrave picks it up, pops it into one of his pockets, and gets the Blackfire gauntlet. That would have been a pretty cool explanation for like which gauntlet it is, that it's Aenys Blackfire's from the Great Council of 233. But Nick is correct that at the time, we've got the other. Yeah, we're talking about Balon's uprising, not Balon, the current Balon, but we're talking about the one during where they attack the north during the Dunk and Egg period. Let me see if he's, because we're not talking about, let's see, She-Wolves, that's Baron Stark. He's getting attacked by the invading Ironborn. I'm trying to remember the maybe if there's any princes that are perhaps mentioned here that we can. I'm just checking here because this is we're not told too much of this period other than the fact that they attack the north, and it would be like the part of the plot of the She-Wolves of Winterfell. Okay, historical members. So we're talking about not Lauren, right? No, not Lauren. Not before. Shit. I'm so sorry here. Dagon. Is it Dagon? Dalton? No. I'm picking the right period. It's, Dagon, right? Dagon. Yeah, Dagon Greyjoy, the last Reaver. He reaves during this period, but did he declare himself king? See, I don't know if he declared himself king. Though you'd think that, one would think he would. But we don't hear him doing that. Huh. I mean, obviously, it could be a change to things that just no one else calls him king, but did Dagon declare himself king during that period, and would his kids be princes? R.I.P. David Lynch. Do you have a favorite film of his? I I mean, I guess Lost Highway. It's the one that kind of like just struck me the most. I mean, everybody says that Blue Velvet is better, but um, I think that one like really messed with my head when I saw it, and it really, I mean, it sticks with me still. So I think that's definitely my favorite. Project Warp Speed was the best thing that Trump ever did. Yeah, probably. I mean, I have no problem with Project Warp Speed, but it depends if it's like if one considers that like it being that impactful or not. Like, would a vaccination happen anyway? I don't know. It's hard. They're the private, like with the ones that were not helped by Project Warp Speed, like kind of hit at the same time, but it did allow us to have more vaccinations. So it probably did, it was fine. Trump was the problem during COVID. Yeah, he was going around unmasked, telling people to live their lives, telling people to get out of there, telling people that it was going to be gone like in a week. Yeah. Trump is the noblest child to rule on this good earth. Thank you, Count Valerian. He's of course referred to Pycelle and as saying that Joffrey was like was the most noblest child to rule on the good earth. Yes. He liked Mulholland Drive. Let's see. Would you consider Trump fascist? I think he's pretty textbook this time around. Yeah. Yeah, I would. I would. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think he just wants power. He doesn't respect or care about like other like separation of powers or anybody else or anything like that. He just yeah. The unfortunate truth is Don won the popular vote and Dems are losing. I don't think that like I don't see how any of this fucking matters. Like, I mean, at this point, I mean, yeah, we all admit that like Americans are fucking stupid. Like, come on. Like, Americans are really fucking dumb. And we did this to ourselves. Like, we were warned. We were fucking warned. Everybody fucking warned us. Everybody fucking warned us. Like, remember? Like, they were like, oh, the Democrats are calling us fascists. And then they fucking are fascists. Like, I mean, do I think like America is getting what it's deserved? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like 1/3 of like 2/3 of the country didn't vote for Trump, like 1/3 of the country doesn't vote. Right. And then 1/3 voted for Kamala and it was a very close election. So it's like, what do people deserve? But the whole point of having the checks and balances is that one election isn't supposed to fucking destroy the whole fucking system. We're supposed to have like stabilizing forces. But this is one of the problems, one of my big problems with billionaires existing is that the nice thing about bureaucracy, everybody thinks, oh, bureaucracy is so horrible because it's so slow and everything. But the nice thing about bureaucracy is that it's the other way. It's cushioning too. But when you have single individuals that have too much power, then their crazy whims, their stupid whims, their uneducated whims, their selfish whims can cause a lot of damage, a lot of fucking damage. And so, like one person's whim, like I'd never want like my random whim. Like just think of all the dumb shit you've done on a whim, in your life. Like just a random fucking whim. Like things you randomly said to somebody, things you randomly bought, bets you made, breakups you had, fights you had, just dumb shit. Time you got drunk. Like, would you want the lives of millions dependent upon your own whims? Like, would you ever want that? I would never want that. Like, I know that I can be fucking crazy sometimes. I know I can lose my temper. I know I can be dumb. I wouldn't want the lives of millions dependent upon like a random whim because I'm a human being. No human being should have that much power. Ever. That's why we have nice bureaucracy. Like, that's why we have nice checks and balances and shit. Like, when Elon Musk, who is fucking dumb and insane, like he's a fucking idiot and insane and selfish, has 400 fucking billion dollars. His fucking random whims are absolute storms. You know? So that's where we are. No one should be, there should be no billionaires. It's all about DB matching. They want to add the government profiles onto your web footprint to better serve your ads, not an existential threat short term. They want to, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, man. It can't be good. It can't be good. These fucking goons, man. Can't be good. Is that like, when is somebody breaking in to a computer system and shoving drives in a good thing? When has that ever been a good thing? Like, what could be the best case scenario? What's the best case scenario? What's the scenario that makes the world a better place? Because I can't think of one. You know, so. Thank you, Moses. I really appreciate it. What does the Democratic Party need to do to win the midterms and the next presidential election? I mean, if the country's still standing, it's going to happen automatically. But like the country, because we're talking, the country's getting burned down to ash. And of course, people are going to be angry. But like, if there's still elections at this point, like if there's still elections, if there's still free and fair elections, they don't need to do anything. They'll win. But they could literally do nothing. And if there's still free and fair elections at that point, they'll win. But that's the if. Is the country still standing in 2 years? I don't know. After a fucking huge Great Depression and possible wars, like what are we fucking doing? You know? On the supposed people that were voting for peace and lower egg prices. And here we are, fucking on the cusp of hyperinflation, a Great Depression, and fucking wars, man. Fucking wars with Canada, Mexico, Panama, and Greenland. I've never met a white South African who isn't evil. I've been to South Africa, so I've met a few. They are liberal-minded South Africans who are fine. But keep in mind that like the Musk family aren't one of them. I've met, look, there's tons of great South Africans who happen to be white. The Musk family, they're not them. They're definitely part of the racist crew. I mean, he fucking did a Sikh Kyle. I mean, he fucking Sikh Kyle. I mean, come on. Like, we don't even have to deal with this shit. Maester Aemon just losing his mind and his sisters never had kids. That's a interesting question. Now I'm thinking about like, it's funny, like, because George has changed like the Targaryen family tree quite a bit. Let me think about this. So supposedly, yeah, Daela and Ray, right? He has these sisters, Daela and Ray, who have kids. And he wonders if Daela and her sister sing to their children. But we never hear about these descendants and whatever happened to them. I mean, I'm just, I suppose they just married some, oh man. But now you're getting me into some good tinfoil. Like, do they marry some Hightowers? Is one of them Wally's Flowers? Wally's Flowers mother? Do all the descendants die? You're right. I mean, it's pretty big plot hole to leave open these children. Oh, Ethereum just hit a 90-day low. First of all, dude, like these fucking cryptocurrencies. Like, I don't believe cryptocurrencies like are worth a dime. I don't think they're worth anything. But what's funny is that like even if you were going to try to have like legitimate cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Ethereum try to be, they've been ruined by all the meme coins. Like now everyone associates meme coins with cryptocurrency. So like you can't undo like the fact that like the Haktua coin like exists, because now when you say, oh, I invested all my money in Bitcoin, everyone's like, you just invested in Haktua coin, you know? Like, so, but that's the thing is like, if the reputation of your product can be ruined by Haktua coin, maybe your product like wasn't that good to begin with. Because I think about things like, bring this up a lot about like Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, owned by religious crazies, not open on Sunday. Just dreadful. I think they don't serve caffeinated beverages. No, I think they do. They offer caffeine-free stuff for the Mormons. I forgot, but anyway, massive problems with the organization. But at the same time, Chick-fil-A ain't going nowhere, because Chick-fil-A sandwiches are fucking delicious, okay? And that's the most important thing. It's a legitimate product that's better than other people's products and will always be around. And that's hard to like fucking shake. You know, we can all fucking hate Jeff Bezos, and I do fucking hate Jeff Bezos. But at the same time, who fucking ships you the cheapest products? By far, you know? Well, it's fucking Amazon. Fucking Amazon. Like, we all fucking hate it. But like, they are the fucking best, right? It's a real legit product, right? Bitcoin, it's not a legit product. It doesn't provide you any service, all right? It's just, there's nothing better about Bitcoin than anything else. Like, yeah, I have regular money. And why would I need Bitcoin? I don't understand. Like, what's the superior aspect? And then somebody starts talking about like blockchain and the bank taking some sort of 1% cut. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine with the 1% cut. I'm fine with that. I don't care. You know, like, you're gonna try to get me to invest all of my money over like a 1% cut that like a bank might take. You know, like, it's a nothing product. And so Haktua coin like will destroy it. Yeah, because Bitcoin is dumb. There's no, I like to say, I put Bitcoin up to the Cheesecake Factory test. You know, say you go to the Cheesecake Factory and you have dinner. You know, you have a nice dinner. You know, you pay your family of 4. You go out. You spend $100. And then you come and you check your credit card statement, and they accidentally charged you twice. And so you click on that second $100 and you're like, oh, dispute. And your bank goes, oh, right. Yeah. Eliminated. Okay. How often does that happen? Well, it happens, you know, maybe once a year. You know, you get some weird charge and you just go dispute and it's gone. Right? It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. You know what also is nice? The fact that my savings accounts are insured. You know, but like the other thing that like if something happens, you get the money back up to like $100,000. So like those are some things that I really like about my banks. You know, I really like that about banks. And I really like how I can use my credit card anywhere. I really like how I can use cash everywhere. That's what's really fucking great about regular money and regular credit cards and regular banks. Is I've got that intermediary person who deals with fraudulent purchases easily and simply. Bitcoin doesn't do that. Like, and so I'm just like, why would I ever fucking use Bitcoin? Why would I take away all of that? What happens if I go to the Cheesecake Factory and I use my fucking Bitcoin thing and they double charge me? Like, I don't know. And then people have, I'm sure somebody has some long explanation and it's like, that sounds complicated. Bye. You know, so go invest in your Hawk-Tuah coin. They've exported 22,000 people, 800,000 per person, 15 million would be 100. Oh, the amount of money to this is also the amount of money to deport people. That's the other thing, is we don't have the funds to do that. Keep in mind that like think about like how many people you would have to hire to arrest somebody, and then the bed, how much that bed costs per day. I happen to know how much that bed costs per day. It depends on the city. But like if you're in New York City, a bed is about $175 per day. You down in nowhere, Texas, where they ship them to, you can get them down to about $59 per bed per day. But still, you start like talking about like, okay, like so you put them all in a bed somewhere, you know. That's a lot of fucking money. There's no way you can afford to deport, to pay for all of this stuff. The plane flights to all of these different places, you know. But you are true. It's just impossible. It's so dumb. John being a snow should mean both his mother and birth was in the north. Mia is a stone, even though Robert was already a high lord. Yeah, I don't know if there's consistency on the children aspect. Like, is it done through your parents? Is it done through the location? And I just think it's just random, because I'm trying to think like Mia, because Edric Storm is from his mother is a Florent. And so she's from the Riverlands. And so he should be a Flowers. But Mia Stone is from the Vale, so she's a Stone. So right. So like there's a contradiction here. Like Edric Storm is getting his storm from his father, not from his mother or where he was conceived or born or anything like that. And Mia Stone is just getting it from her location. So there doesn't seem to be a consistency. Like, I think you can just choose whatever you fucking want. So I think with like John being a snow, it just means like one of his parents was a northerner or he was born in the north, either one. So, you know, you could, and I think in Game of Thrones, they're like, oh, his name would be Sand. And then they changed to Snow. I mean, I imagine because his father is Targaryen that he could also be Rivers, because his father was the Prince of Dragonstone. So, or not Rivers, Waters, right? So he could be John Waters. John Waters. Hairspray by Baltimore's own John Waters. Oh man. If I ever run into John Waters again, I need to tell him that. I don't know if he'd care. John Waters. What a wonderful man. Hey Preston, how are all these Valyrian Steel weapons getting up north to fight the others? I think that if I were planning the story, I think that the final showdown would not be in the north, but at the God's Eye, around Harrenhal. Some evidence of this is that Dany has a dream about fighting in the Trident against people with ice armor and stuff. So I understand that the show had everything at Winterfell, but I think it would make more sense to have them at least the others at least make it down across the north and have some killing of people, um, to be and then to have them face off in the Riverlands. And that way, you just logistically, everyone's just a lot closer. You can get all these weapons in. But yeah. Otherwise, like, why would every single person, like, why would these people be taking their Valyrian steel swords to get up there? I mean, even like logistically speaking, like trying to get, and some of these characters, like getting Sam all the way back to Winterfell by the end of the story. Like, how are you doing that? Like, it took you a book to get him down, and he was on a ship. How are you getting him all the way back up to the north? I think you make everything. You make everything. The Riverlands. It's just easier. It's easier to get all the characters there. I'm reading this, DD. Was George R. R. Martin's line in this blog about how reasonable he is about faithfulness a dig at Condal or self-depreciation? I thought latter. Carmine convinced me just a dig, but see comment. It's funny because when Carmine and I talked about it first, we thought George was a bit delusional because he talked about like we thought he was being delusional and hypocritical, but let me bring this up because this is interesting. Man, it's already oh god. Oh, okay. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is an adaptation of The Hedge Knight, the first of my novellas I wrote about them. It's as faithful as adaptation as a reasonable man could hope for, and you all know how incredibly reasonable I am on that particular subject. That sounds self-depreciating, right? I think he's being. I think that's got to be. Yeah, I think what he's saying is it's really, really faithful because he's saying that he admits that he was going a little overboard on House of the Dragon. Like, I think he's stepping back and saying, okay, I went a little overboard on my criticism of House of the Dragon, and that he's actually a not very reasonable person, and he's saying that it's as faithful as a reasonable man could hope for. So I think what he's saying is that it's much more. He's obviously saying that it's much more faithful than House of the Dragon, but I think he's also being self-depreciating. I agree with you, Dragon Demands, that I think he's. I don't think it's a dig. I think it's self-depreciation. I don't think it's a dig. I think he's stepping back and regretting what he said. Oh, Carmine disagrees. Hello, Carmine.
Strong disagree.
Strong disagree. You think it's a dig.
So I've covered this extensively on my channel, and you were there with me some of the times for it. George has been bitching about how House of the Dragon Season 2 was not faithful to his adaptation long before the Toxic Butterflies thing. No fucking
He
shot.
has.
No fucking shot he's like not being cheeky about it. No shot he's not. He
But I mean, do
complained
you think
about it to
he
that
perhaps like vented a little and is like, maybe I was being a bit of a dick.
Are we gonna really think that George, in his old age, really, as much as he hates how adaptations don't. He had a whole other blog post again last year about how adaptations don't ever stick the landing because the showrunner wants to do their own thing. Really think George, in his old age, is going to change so quickly? I don't know about that.
Yeah,
it's possible. Don't know about that. So I think it's a slight dig. It's just a very small little dig because he's to
I'm
me
gonna,
it
I'm
seems
gonna
like
give,
he's
I'm gonna give him
saying
the benefit. I'm gonna give him the benefit. I think I'm on Dragon Demand side. I think I'm gonna benefit that he was like that. He realized the error of his ways. And but how you doing? How you doing these days?
living, surviving, all that stuff. Did you get that thing I sent you?
Yes.
You saw the Kanye thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
That's fucking weird.
Ah!
Kanye's a fucking dick.
You
What a
know,
dickhead.
you know, you know. Maybe Kanye as president wasn't a bad idea after all. You
Would
have
have
to
been better
pick
than the
Kanye.
current situation. Better than the current
There it
situation.
is. A
Um,
gentleman's agreement.
yeah. Thoughts on The Sopranos? I've only seen like 2 episodes of The Sopranos. They were they were good episodes. They're fine. I understand people love it, but I just haven't. I haven't seen it. I can't comment on it. It was just one of those things that I missed. Society had their little zeitgeist moment on it. I wasn't part of it. Sorry. Like it's just one of those things. Carmine loves The Sopranos. He loves it, but I never saw it, except for the couple of episodes. I saw the episode where his wife is having an affair with the principal. I saw that episode. And I think I saw the episode where his son goes into a bakery and shoots a guy in the foot. I don't know. So that's about it. Is the deferred resignation thing for feds a scam or a trick? Is admin leave for 8 months even legal? Or is it all a trap? We don't know. We don't know. I'll tell you, it's the weirdest fucking email I've ever gotten. It literally says like, reply resign. Like this is like you fucking confirming a dentist appointment with like confirm on your on like your phone. Like it said reply to the fucking email, and it's a really fucking nasty fucking like very threatening email. Like you can resign and be honorably leave the government, or you can stay around, but keep in mind like you're gonna need to be loyal, and you're like, oh. So it's really fucking creepy. It was a really fucking creepy email and very threatening. But we don't know about the deferred resignation thing. Essentially, they set it up clearly because they thought that because it goes until the end of fiscal, which we call it September 30th is end of fiscal year. And so I think the idea is that they're not funded. This isn't funded. And therefore, if they just keep them on the same salary, which is funded, that they can have them not do anything. And so it's like they're getting around the fact that it's not severance. They're just keeping you on the rolls and you're getting paid, but you're not working, and then you agree to resign. The problem with that is that we're not actually funded to the end of fiscal. We're funded to March. Also, like, funding is for particular things, and so you can't necessarily we don't know if this is legal or not. It's a thing for lawyers, but it's one of these things that like, do I trust these motherfuckers? No, I don't trust. Like, I wouldn't trust them. Like, fuck no, fuck no, I don't trust it. So I don't know. Is it a trap? I don't know. It doesn't make very much, like, it all doesn't make very much sense to me. So when the government funds an agency, there's a number of positions that are then funded. So you have like 100 positions in and then maybe they can hire and they fill like 80 of them, and you've got 20 vacants and you've got like 80 people working there. So say you convince like half the workforce to resign. So you got 40 now. You still have 100 positions. So the minute the hiring freeze would end, you could start hiring those people back in to the positions. So I don't get it, because like the positions are funded by Congress. Like the executive can only shrink the size of government in like a very short-term sense. So I don't understand like what they're doing. I don't know. It seems like more of like a breaking people's spirits kind of thing, if anything, or making government dysfunctional or something. It's fucking weird, but it's fucking weird. Fucking weird. If you were Sweet Robin's advisor, what would you suggest he do about Littlefinger? I would suggest we'd send Littlefinger home packing. The guy. I mean, well, first off, if I were Sweet Robin's advisor, I would want to have the power myself, and so of course I'd let Sweet Robin. I mean, I'd let Littlefinger go home, but he shouldn't be here. But like, I'm trying to think like, who would I want to be ruling the Vale? Because they all kind of suck. I don't think many people kind of like. The problem is they're in a very bad situation. I'm not saying that Bronze-Yon Royce is a fucking great choice for leading the Vale either, but I don't know. I mean, if you think about it in a sense, like, I know people love to hate Lysa Arryn, but like, Lysa did keep them out of war, like, a really dumb war. So I don't know. Littlefinger keeps him out of war, but he's trying to mobilize him to war. So I don't know. Try to find who's the biggest peacenik in the Vale, So, but I'd send Littlefinger packing. That's for sure. Jon Con and Golden Company could take Davos' family prisoner. Yes, this is something I've definitely thought about. They've taken the Rainwood in the Arion sample chapters, so they conceivably would have Davos' family if the letter wasn't sent. So Davos writes a letter one of his times in prison. I think his last time in prison, his third prison time. In his third prison, he writes a letter and he tells Robert Glover, if I die, mail this. And Robert Glover's like, you have my word. So there's this idea that, like, is Davos dead? Or would Robert Glover think Davos is dead, and would he send the letter? And would it reach them in time for them to escape? Because he tells them, please go to Braavos, get out of Westeros. Or maybe the letter is supposed to be there as like a near miss. But yeah, I do think that Davos' family is prisoner of the Golden Company. I think it's going to be a relevant, fun little plot thing later. Yeah. Chicago school is what Trump is. No, he's not. Trump doesn't know anything about economics. He's definitely not Chicago school, because they'd be against tariffs then. Like there's this idea of like Chicago, like everything Chicago school, like being bad. And you're like, no. Well, there's a few things that make him not Chicago school. One, like, he really believes that the Fed, like, and like, should manipulate interest rates. Well, Chicago school doesn't believe the Fed even has a function, like that. They don't believe the manipulation of interest rates does anything, because they believe in rational expectations that everyone would just adjust. And so there's no monetary policy in Chicago school, in neoclassical. So like, no, there's like major things that make Trump not Chicago school. I think people conflate Chicago school with like, oh, tax cuts. And that's because when we talk about like supply side versus demand side, and this is what I'm talking about, they use these terms. Okay, when people say supply side, what they mean is fiscal stimulus. And when people talk about demand side, they mean monetary stimulus. Okay, so a monetary stimulus is lowering interest rates, while a fiscal stimulus is lowering taxes, right? And you're going to do this at different times based on whether or not there's like depression coming or recession coming. Okay, you've got these two instruments. demand side and supply side. And so when people say the statement, Chicago School is all supply side, yeah, it's all supply side because they don't believe monetary policy is a thing because of rational expectations. Okay. So like, so then people say, okay, supply side means lowering taxes. And it's like, no, supply side means lowering taxes if you think a recession is coming on. We're not in a recession, so you shouldn't be lowering taxes. So like, so, I don't want to give like, you got to take all these things like Chicago School doesn't mean lower taxes all the time, every time, at all moments. Like that's never been the case. Like, but, so it's these things like these very simplistic ideas like of what these things mean. Like, oh, Trump wants to lower taxes, he must be Chicago School. No, like, no, that's not what Chicago School is. Okay. But Chicago School, is heavy into rational expectations is the best way to think about Chicago School. Look up Robert Lucas. He is the center of everything Chicago School. Robert Lucas. But yeah, he wouldn't be for tariffs. Nobody's for fucking tariffs. Oh gosh. What's Austrian economics anyway? Austrian economics it's a joke, and Jackie's right, but it's a joke. It doesn't have any mathematical or research backing to it, like neo-Keynesian or neoclassical economics, which is based on, people actually do like research papers and stuff like that. And so it's kind of based on this, it's based more on like ideology of like, it's associated with like libertarianism and self-interest, and like but it's based completely on ideology and then finding economics that like fits it, and making up economics that fits it. Like nobody really believes it today. Cause like they literally like no one is putting out Austrian school economics, like research papers that get published in economics journals, like, or at least not legitimate economic journals. Like no one does that. It's not like an actual science, I mean, it's the equivalent of being like, okay, in physics, there are people that believe in string theory, and in physics, there's people that believe in modular gravity, and then you'd be like, oh, but there's also like what's the old medieval science where you change metallurgy, or not the where you transform metal, transmutation kind of stuff from like gold to silver. Like that's the equivalent of like Austrian economics. Like it's just a joke. Like there's no research. By the way, like the other thing about like, if you want to know about like neoclassical and neo-Keynesian, like the thing is like neoclassical economics, people envy it because it has the best math, and on paper has the soundest, the soundest theory. Well, neo-Keynesian has the benefit of actually you can observe neo-Keynesian principles in real life. So like, even though the neoclassicists can like put on paper that like rational expectations is a fact and that monetary policy isn't a thing, like we know that monetary policy is a thing. When we do interest rate changes, the world does react. So like it does, like, it doesn't matter. like, like neo-Keynesian does actually work in the real world. So that's why the competition between the two. One is like theoretically pure, and one is more like practically there. But right now, the third school that is actually like taking over, that's defeating both of them, is behavioral. Behavioral economics has been like dominating the field on an academic level for the past like 20 years. Like it's behavioral economics, which combines behavioral economics is like game theory and psychology, and stuff like that, trying to explain different things about like economic principles and like why we do things. So now like everyone is on behavioral, like that's the new thing, but no one. Oh my god! If like someone brings up fucking Austrian, oh my god. So Toasty Babies says, well, isn't stone, it's still wood. Bran feels it and his hand gets white. The tree growing in the kitchen is a branch. The base is the black gate. Let me see. Now I'm curious about this well. That the baby werewood is just actually a branch coming from it. Let me see what I can find on this. Oh, I see what you're saying. I mean, it's very interesting. Okay, so the Reeds decided that they would sleep in the kitchen. A stone octagon with a broken dome. It looked to offer better shelter than most of the other buildings, even though a crooked werewood had burst up through the slate floor beside the huge central well, stretching slantwise towards the hole in the roof, its bone-white branch reaching for the sun. It was a queer kind of tree, skinnier than any other werewood that Bran had seen, and faceless as well, but it made him feel as if the old gods were with him at least. It was the only thing he liked about the kitchen. The roof was mostly there, so it had been dry and rained, and they could think it'd get warm there. He could feel the cold seeping through the slate floor. Bran did not like the shadows either. Pale moonlight starting to shine through the hole in the dome, painting the branches of the werewood as they strained upward towards the roof. It looked as if the tree was trying to catch the moon. What do we hear about the well? What's this thing like? Let's see. What more can we find out about this well? Central well. The well was the thing he liked the least. 12 feet across. It was a good 12 feet across. All stone with steps built into its side. Circling down and down in darkness. The walls were damp and covered with niter. But none of them could see the bottom. Niter, saltpeter, soft white soluble mineral found in cave deposits. Okay. Word echoed, faint echoes up the well. I mean, it's coming from the well. The monsters are coming up the well. I mean, I think in definitely in a sense, it, you know, when you're like descending into the earth and the evil being at the bottom and things like that, he's tapping into the same things. I'm also wondering if he's tapping into the same ideas of like his tower and pits and things like that. It's just hard for me to believe. Like I'm just like, he definitely uses the things. Like he doesn't say like carved. He said built. Like the stairs are built into the side of the well and things like that. I mean, it's interesting. I don't know if it changes much if it happens to be a werewood or not, but I mean, I don't know if we can tell if it's a branch or not. I mean, I see what you're saying. Like, I can't disprove your theory that that it could be that it could be the werewood and that branch is actually coming out, um, and that they've walked down the well to the bottom. Um, but to get the water, doesn't it have to go down into the groundwater? And why would you do that in the middle of a tree? Like, what? I mean, wouldn't the roots get in the way and things like that? It ceases functioning as a well, right? Um, hmm. I'm so behind. I'm so behind. 12:30 already. How you doing, Carmine? What personal problems does George have? George have? Does something happen? Look. I think I said specifically I don't want to talk about like what's going on personally in George's life. I think it's a little disrespectful. There's stories I've heard, and I don't want to talk about them.
We've been sworn to secrecy.
That's true. Yeah, but yeah, I think it's a little. Yeah, I think it's. I think it'd be crossing the line to talk about the personal things in his life that I've heard about. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. um, will the U.S. default? Um, I mean, before I would say it's like the impossibility. It's the thing that like completely destroys America is if we default on debt because our bonds are the most trustworthy things in the world. The U.S. government has never defaulted on a government bond, but now, I mean, I understand that it seems so like trite that to be like, well, Trump's a madman, but he's fucking does irrational things. Like, is he crazy? I think he's old. I think he's a fucking old crazy man. But like the you just can't have like the tariffs thing is so dumb that I cannot like rationalize it. There's no fucking reason for the fucking tariffs. There's none. There's like I don't know who is, but like unless he's got some weird goon that's like, the United States can just be on its own and everyone will cave to us, or he really thinks that Trump that Canada would submit and become an American state just to like get rid of 25% tariffs or something, not understanding how fucking nationalistic Canadians are and how that would literally never fucking happen. Like you want to get a group of people more nationalistic than Americans? It's fucking Canadians with their fucking maple leaf tattoos, right? Like fucking Canadians, man. I love you to death. But now I don't know, man. I don't have any faith. I don't have any faith that things aren't falling apart. It's really fucking scary and bad. Like I say, we're hours away from like the stock market opening and crashing tomorrow. Um, um, in one sentence, what's the difference between Austrian neoclassical and neo-Keynesian? Like I say, Austrian is just kind of like weird philosophical kind of thing. Don't worry about it. Classical versus Keynesian. Okay. So so originally like classical is Adam Smith, okay? And like I say, like later on Keynes came around and said that if you get into a depression or recession, that you can kick yourself out of that through monetary or fiscal policy. And that's what the Keynesians said. Okay. And then neoclassicals came around and said, no, human beings act rationally. You can't just fucking like play around with these mythological ideas of interest rates and inflation rates as if like people are fooled by that shit. They're not. They act rationally. And we can learn a lot about, like, once we assume that human beings act rationally, then we can make all sorts of other assumptions, maybe too many. While the neo-Keynesians are then like, okay, we accept the neoclassical rational expectations thing, but I think you went too far. And we're going to salvage like the ideas of like monetary policy from Keynesian stuff. But a big thing is about, if you really want to get into it, I'm sorry, you got me on this. It's about markets clearing. Okay. This is probably the most important fucking thing. So the central fucking mystery to economics today, okay, the central fucking mystery, and I'm talking like in physics, it's what causes gravity, right? That's the central fucking mystery. In psychology, it's like, what is consciousness, right? What's the central fucking mystery, okay? The central fucking mystery of economics that everyone's been working on, that no one's been able to figure out, is why do markets sometimes not clear? The clearing of markets. Now you may say like that, what does that fucking mean? The clearing of markets. Well, it's real simple. Say like you go to the grocery store and Cheerios is priced at $10 a box. Well, at $10 a box, that's pretty expensive. Maybe they sell, half of them. So the store owner's like, fuck, I can't sell any more at $10. So I'm going to lower the price to $8. Well, he sells 25 more. And then he lowers it to like fucking 6 and he sells 10 more. And then he lowers it to 4 and he sells, 10 more. And then he lowers it to 3 and he sells the last 5 boxes. The point is, price shifts until the market's clear. Price shifts until supply meets demand. And so when I say market's clear, that shelf is clear of Cheerios. And that's how the fucking world works. Okay? Every shop will have a bunch of shit on their shelf, and they will shift the price until all that shit is gone. That's markets clearing. Okay? It seems pretty simple. Why wouldn't markets must always clear, right? No, sometimes markets don't clear, most notably with fucking labor. Okay, so there are unemployed people in the world, and unemployed people, that's the same as Cheerios sitting on a fucking shelf that aren't getting picked up. And no one knows why. No one knows why fucking unemployed people exist. Because shouldn't price shift until supply meets demand? Shouldn't these workers be adjusting their salaries and taking lower and lower salaries until they're all gone? But it doesn't happen. Okay, so this is the big mystery of the world, is why don't markets sometimes clear? And so when you talk about that's what you'll hear when they talk about the central mystery is market clearing. Like, well, how do you feel about? Well, what do you think? What do you think the reasons are for market clearing? Like, why does it happen? So, the neo-Keynesians have a whole bunch of little theories on why markets don't clear. Okay, so some of them are. Well, you'll hear about things called menu costs and other stuff. There's a lot of tiny little things, and honestly, none of them really are very large and don't really explain market clearing. So neo-Keynesians kind of fall short in this respect. The neoclassicists say, no, markets have cleared the whole time because these people are just choosing not to work. They're not really unemployed because they're buying their leisure. They're buying leisure. So markets have cleared. So, or they have another thing they call real business cycle, and they have theories about that. But it's fundamentally two different ways of viewing the fundamental problem of economics, which is why markets don't clear. Is that one approaches it through a whole bunch of tiny little theories that don't seem to add up to the full theory. And a complete like dismissal of like even the situation. Like in a way, like neoclassicists don't believe people are unemployed. They're like, no, they're not unemployed. They're just choosing not to work, and they're purchasing leisure time instead. You know, despite you can interview these unemployed people being like, no, I'm searching for a job constantly. What are you fucking talking about? I don't want to be unemployed. And the neoclassicists being like, you're choosing to be unemployed because you're lazy. You know, like, so it's this is why I say it's the fundamental theory. Like the fundamental problem is that neither side is anywhere fucking close to explaining the fundamental like problem with economics. You know, like where does gravity come from? You know, so anyway, what are you talking about? Sent you a follow-up email, hints in the chat. Thank you, thank you. Have any fanfic writers expressed interest in side stories like Dunk and Egg? Also, do any of the writers have their own stories we can read? I don't know. No one has. I mean, obviously, everybody had their own versions of like the chapters they wrote. I don't know if like people are side writers and have other stuff that they'd like to advertise. I'm open to telling everybody about it. Stuff. One person did submit a version of the She-Wolves of Winterfell. They wrote the She-Wolves of Winterfell, and I just haven't had the time to like look at it because I've just been so many things and personal things in my life as well. Because the fucking Carmine knows because I've talked to Carmine, but you can admit, Carmine, that my past fucking months have been pretty fucking rough.
They've been brutal. By the way, the the super chat you were talking about before in regards to the Night Fort and the well and all that.
Yeah.
I'm aware of where that theory is coming from. It's coming from another YouTuber. I don't want to dismiss it outright. I'll give you more information on it later. But it kind of boils down to Attack on Titan, but transferred to Game of Thrones.
Oh, I see.
So like in that theory, the wall just has like it's hard to explain. I'll have to. There's a whole fucking thing.
Bran Voss, like way back in the day, he was really curious about that room. Like he really thought that like it's really suspicious that this old octagon room with a dome exists when domes are a fairly like new functional thing, and he felt that like that room might be the oldest room in the Dreadfort and stuff like that. So
the theory really relies on the Heart of Winter and it being at the Night Fort. If this is the correct thing the super chatter was talking about, which I don't know about that, because in Game of Thrones, doesn't Bran see the Heart of Winter and it's beyond the wall?
Yes, he does. Well, yeah.
So, yeah. But no, a good chunk of it is Attack on. I don't know how far you got into Attack on Titan, but a good chunk of it is Attack on Titan transferred to Game of Thrones. But again, you need to take what I say from a certain point of view, because for me, as always, most of these theories out there have been out there for a long time, just different voices. You know how.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I was talking about the current Balon sons. Oh, right. You're talking like Meryn and Roderick. Could it be from that? That's true. That's all these opportunities of princes and stuff. Yeah. That's true. Careful, Preston. The crypto bros are touchy. Yeah, we don't really learn anything about like Roderick and Meryn. I'd like to bring them more into the story. In retrospect, have Asha think about them. These crypto bros are fucking crazy, dude. Like they fucking have nothing. Saying it provides no benefit. I'm not saying blockchain isn't as a technology isn't beneficial as like a crypto as a security crypto method, but I don't think crypto coins like have any use. It's completely speculative, yeah. But I don't think there's any use to Bitcoin at all. BTC is superior to buying drugs online. What is BTC? Oh, this is oh, that's Bitcoin. I mean, this is all gambling, right? This is all gambling. This is a gambling nation, right? Gambling con nation, right? Um, I love my FTC insured banking. Exactly. I mean, I suppose if I'm a drug dealer, yeah, that you could use some crypto. Um, but this is I say, like, yeah, no, I admit the tech behind crypto, blockchain is useful. I'm just saying that the coin, like having a coin, is not useful. I think it's very interesting blockchain technology. Yeah, that's interesting. Um, Let's see. Visa has a duopoly, become the moral arbiters of the planet by their guidelines. No one votes for those. The interchange fees they're charged different countries can stall and shrink countries' economies. I guess so. I mean, okay. Doesn't make crypto any liberating thing. This thing is like pointing at this thing of like pointing out like the flaws in one thing doesn't make the other thing like so great. Like you're never going to really get people to purchase a product on moral grounds. Okay, veal. Look. Veal is still fucking sold at the grocery store. Do you think veal is going away anytime soon? Like, we all know it's bad. We all know veal's bad. We all know that like the shoes that we buy in that we have on our feet are all from Vietnam. But you need more than abstract morality um, to push a product. Like people are not going to switch over to something based on. I've been trying to get Carmine off Twitter. Okay, right. Elon Musk is
What I
literally a
do?
Nazi. He's literally a fucking Nazi, and he's literally like like breaking into government agencies and stealing my personal information. And I still can't get Carmine off fucking Twitter. Okay,
I'm not
because
even on there.
it still provides a service, right? So like this is this thing like no one's going to switch to Bitcoin because you've convinced somebody that like Visa and Mastercard are like this evil boogeyman. It's just not going to happen. You have to provide a fucking service, and it doesn't provide a service. Like you know, so it's going nowhere. Do not invest in crypto, guys. Like don't gamble. Don't fucking gamble. It's not. There's nothing good about it. Oh, um, keep going back and forth on whether Aaron was a necessary point of view. Not the most interesting character, but two of his three chapters, including Forsaken, are some of the best in the series. Absolutely. Like, I mean, that's the thing is like percentage wise, granted, he only has three. So there's, outliers and such. But like percentage wise, Aaron's the best character, right? Because 2/3 of his story is fucking golden, right? Who else has that ratio? Nobody. Nobody else has that ratio. Like nobody else is that fucking good, right? You know? Um like even you could say Quentin. Like Quentin's got a couple really great chapters, but I mean, let's say you say a Spurn Suitor and Dragon Tamer are like fucking great. Windblown and Merchant's Man are okay. So he's got 50. You could say Quentin's 50%, but no one's going to approach Aaron 67%. Who has that? Who's got that? Nobody. Nobody's close. Nobody's fucking close. Even if you're saying like like just the Daenerys, a Game of Thrones story, which is pretty fucking rocking, right? Like, how many of her chapters just knock it out of the park? Let's say you say that like of the 10, like 4 of them really knock it out of the park. Um, not that's still only 40%. You don't approach Aaron. You don't approach Aaron. Aaron's the fucking best character, percentage wise. um, Most money currency doesn't lose 20% of its value overnight like crypto did. Here's the thing is that, like, you know, it's clearly a fucking scam. Like, there's clearly somebody that's just speculating who, like, they invested in it. So they're trying to get you to invest in it to get the price high. Like, that's clearly the only reason. No one's using crypto day to day. Johnny Rivers. Oliver Stone's in the chat. Nice. Nice. No, not US dollar is secure because of US Treasury bonds, not because of the US military. It is a, these are all arbitrary units. And the gold standard, again, the United States hasn't had the gold standard since before, like, since the Great Depression. Okay. Like, I don't know if you remember, like, World War II. I mean, obviously none of you motherfuckers remember World War II, but remember, like, all that, like, buy your government bonds. Like, do you remember that? Buy your government bonds so you can fund the fucking war. There was no fucking gold standard, okay? There's no fucking gold standard. It was the fucking bonds. We print treasury bills, and those treasury bills, they've never been defaulted on, which is why I say, like, the US dollar is very secure, because it's based on fucking treasury bonds who have never defaulted. So it's not really the US military. The US has an impeccable record. Has an impeccable fucking record that like nothing else in the world has the record of US Treasury bonds. So there's not a thing on the planet that you can say is as trustworthy as US Treasury bonds. I mean, I don't know about 2024, 2025, like, maybe everything's going to change. But that is the thing, is it's based on reputation and legitimacy. Power resides where people think it resides, and the fucking US Treasury bill is fucking incredible because it's never been defaulted on. It is that trustworthy. So, yeah. Meanwhile, fucking Bitcoin. I mean, come on, guys. Come on. Hey, Preston, watching for a decade. Thank you. Love to chat media sometime. I'm always around. I hate to bring up football, but will next week's stream be structured around our American Holy Day? Should I? Is this the? I mean, should I somehow try to do a Saturday stream or a Euro stream sometime because of the Super Bowl? Because you're all going to be fucking watching the Super Bowl. Most people are going to skip the Super Bowl. I don't know, man. People really love the Super Bowl. I'm surprised. Maybe I'll think about the Euro friendly stream or something. Try to figure something out. Because yeah, it's tough to compete with the Super Bowl. People
Euro friendly stream.
Well, I think I've streamed during important football games before, and people are like talking, like the comments are like the game chatter, and I'm like, oh, interesting. Okay. Okay. Oh, any chance that we'll get a theory about Severance from you? I need to watch season 2. But people are saying season 2 is just as good as season 1, which I'm really fucking excited about, which is fucking great. Carmine, you haven't watched it yet?
Yeah, I've seen Severance season 1.
Okay.
And I've seen Silo. I'm actually the one pushing you to watch more shows on Apple Plus or Apple TV, because Apple doesn't miss. They don't have a bad show.
I know. You need to get on. No one watches Apple, so yeah.
That's a shame.
Tyrion offered to a Hightower daughter. Tywin thought it might be accepted points to someone despoiled and aged but fertile for heirs. I still think it was Melora Walgrave, but older, much groomed during her lessons. Here's the thing: is like Wallis is not the right age for the Mad Maid to be his mom. the Hightower girl is unknown on the timeline, but it is impossible that she's the Mad Maid. It just doesn't work. The not to mention the fact that she's called a maid. So, but I'm trying to think like yeah, which Hightower Tyrion was offered to? Because I thought, let me see here. Hightower. Let's see if I can find it. Was there? I know he was offered. Wasn't he offered to Lolly Stokeworth or something at one point? Tywin later tried to offer Tyrion to Lords Jon Rons and Leighton Hightower, but they took it in a similar fashion. Oh, right. So they rejected him. So who's of the right age? I mean, Lyness is already married to Jorah, right? So I guess it has to be like Alysanne Hightower or something. Probably Layla Hightower. You know, there's a bunch of people that we just don't know. We don't really know their ages. Illyri's old though. I don't know the order of stuff, or it could be like another branch, another random cousin or something, because there's a few of those, obviously, but this Melora is Walgrave when grew during lesson. Yeah, I just don't like. I'm trying to pick out like how it could be Melora, because we know that like Baelor was considered for Elia, right? And he's the eldest, and so he's going to be around. He's going to be in his 40s, right? Or maybe 50s, you know, because he's got to be marrying age for Elia, who is around just a year difference in age from Oberyn, right? So like Baelor might be in his 50s, so like Melora would be, you know, even claiming that Baelor could be as old as 55, and like you could make Melora like 54, you know, that doesn't. She would have to. Wallis has to be like born in the 240s. Like, well, like it's just no way. She'd be like 4 when she's having him. I just don't think it can work out. Okay. Oh man, it's late, guys. So I've gotta put this away.
Already? You just.
I know.
Sorry.
Charles Keating was famous anti-smut guy before becoming a financial con man. Fascinating. Can't put my finger on what it reminds me of. Yeah, I mean, all these people, they just choose whatever lane will pay them money, you know. I think the well is a reservoir that handles excess runoff from the wall. Oh man, it mentioned that it's lower than the Black Gate and it's dungeons. Interesting. Could be like a cooling tower for whatever machines are like making the ice. Errors in what leads you to believe they don't clear. Oh, errors in we're talking about the markets clearing. Bitcoin is too slow for retail payment. It's not equivalent. Not trying to argue, but the arguments against Visa, MasterCard, Australian Visa interchange is 0.4, Somalia 17%, US 1.5. Jeez. Must be the cost of doing business or something in the country or something like that. That's Europe 5.5. That's really high. I'm surprised. I mean, it explains why like Germany is so cash based. Everyone looked at my credit card like in Germany, but everybody uses credit cards everywhere. In actually, they use kind of like bank cards. In they use like debit cards a lot in Scandinavia. Bitcoin growth is going to be flattening from inverse square to linear all the time. Pure organic growth. All the dodge are examples of strength in the coin, not the other way around. Mitgak, 70% Bitcoin gone in a day. Would USD survive? I should say I have no Bitcoin outside operations. Don't invest in that. It's dumb. I mean, do you think like, do you think Musk and Trump are just invested in a bunch of like Bitcoin, so they want to crash the U.S. economy and then have Bitcoin be the only thing left over? Did Taiwan hang Heddle at the kind of the crossroads cause Blackfire? I think it was a chance that he killed Heddle, and she happened to be a Blackfire. I don't know if Taiwan is too like in tune to like who is a Blackfire and who's not. All right, but that's it. Now I gotta go. Thank you all. Thank you all. Stayed on for Carmine. I did 3 hours and 40 minutes, man.
Oh, never mind. You didn't just get here. I'm sorry. I apologize about that. We'll get a couple of things coming out, by the way. Berserk and the Boys sometime next week because Trey's been busy.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being with me this long. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.